Thanks for tuning in to Proline TV. I'm your host, Greg DePalma, as we get set for another week of football. Thank goodness for that. It's still early enough in November that the end of the seasons are still a little bit away from our viewing capacity, and we're all glad to know that. Week number 11 in NFL, we're going to talk about week 12 of college football. We're going to go over all of the conference races in college football, Power 4, Group of 5. We're going to go through as many games as we can, update the odds, obviously, as we surf through the lines from DraftKings. We're also going to, of course, take a look at the NFL. We'll also tap in maybe some of the futures at both college and the NFL ranks. So we have a lot to go over as usual here for a Wednesday. Now, normally, well, I shouldn't say normally, but we were trying to shift to Tuesdays, and I'm not sure if that's going to work because we just couldn't fit it in. And as you can tell from the last several weeks, we did a 3-hour show last week. So we also had the Penn State postgame show that normally airs on Wednesdays. So we postponed that till tomorrow. So that's going to be on Thursday night, 7 o'clock Eastern. Our Penn State boys are going to talk about the Michigan State game. They need to win out to go bowling, even though they believe they won't accept a bowl invitation. But still, I guess they have something to play for in their matchup against Michigan State. So, and also talk about the head coaching search for the Lions. And then we'll see about next week. Who knows? Maybe it'll go back to Tuesday, or maybe I'll stay on Wednesdays once again. Either way, don't forget, we're going to be here still every week, doing the best we can to get you ready for the week in NFL and college football. Hopefully you had an opportunity to check out Jim Feist at Dom DeMarco's earlier today. So that is already, of course, available on the channel. So you can check that out. Of course, they went through all the games in the NFL with their cast of characters down at the restaurant in Las Vegas. So you can check that out here on Proline TV. Tomorrow at 1 o'clock, it's the Playbook ATS podcast show. It's Jim Feist, myself, Mark Lawrence, and Andy Isco. Mark will designate several games in both the NFL and college football for us to talk about. And then on Friday, on our Pigskin Friday report, we'll kind of do the same. It'll be just Jim, Mark, and I, and we'll take a look at some of the games that we do not talk about on the show tomorrow in both the NFL and college football. Now, before we get started, one last thing. I want to let everybody know that we have a YouTube membership available now here on Proline TV. So if you're really into Jim Feist and Mark Lawrence and all of their great knowledge that goes back for a very long time, many years, and any of the viewers here to this channel, especially the ones that are very familiar with the Proline brand, very familiar with Jim and Mark. Anyway, I just want to let you know that we have a YouTube membership now that is available. All you have to do is click that join button, as you can see there. Should be right there for you to see, right on the screen, right below the screen. You just hit the join button, and you can check out the packages that we have available. Now, we have 3 specific tiers. All right. So we have a $40 tier. I believe it's a $40 tier with Mark, a $50 tier with Jim, and a $100 tier, which gives you everything and more. So what you want to do is when you hit the join button, you go through the tiers, all 3 tiers. You can check out everything that's available, and we'll update this every day on all of our programs to kind of give you a little bit of information for everything that we're doing. And we're going to pick a nice little strategy way to do it as well. So within the next week or two, you're going to really be familiar with everything that we provide you within those tiers. Bottom line is you're going to be getting Jim's picks, Mark's picks. We have additional handicappers that we're going to be bringing in. Hopefully Victor, King, Andy Isco, you know those guys. I'll be producing some videos and things of that nature, like as bonus content. So there's a lot of things we're working on besides that. But the bottom line is we figured, hey, let's just get this, party started. College basketball season just kicked off shortly. a little while ago, including the NBA. So no better time than now to get that YouTube membership platform started. So that's it. Check it out. Let us know what you think. And you can also check out our YouTube message board. So we're going to be very active on that too. And that's the best way to communicate with us. Besides, if you want to comment on the show for any in particular specific video, that's the easiest way, of course. You watch a video, you comment, whatever, ask a question. You can do it here live on the show, of course, as well. But let's say there's no live show going on and you want to ask a question, anything at all regarding what we do here on the channel. You want some advice, anything is on your mind, just go to our community link. There's the community link. You see it right there. It should be right there in front of your face, just like the join and the subscribe buttons. Very easy to find. And you hit the community button, boom, it goes right basically to our message board, and you can let us know what's on your mind. Okay, so let's get started with college football. All right, so college football, let's take a look at the rankings. So it came out yesterday. It's another thing that could be a more of a beneficial deal for us if we wind up going back to Wednesdays, that we get to see these rankings. All right, so here are the rankings. I'm seeing them for the first time myself. Let's see here. I mean, you know what? This looks really, really similar. Let's take a look at our rankings. Where are our rankings? Let me see if I can pop that in there. I don't think that's right. Obviously, we haven't even shown you our new rankings this week. So let's go. First of all, here we go. So not a lot of changes from last week. Also going to get ready for the group of 5 rankings we're going to show you in just a sec. Okay. So take a look. So we have, as you can see here, not a lot of movement, even though we did move Ohio State above Indiana. All right. So as you know, Texas A&M, they have been our top team for about a month now. And then we have Notre Dame, Alabama, Texas Tech, Georgia. So really this top 10 is pretty similar, except the only move was we swapped Ohio State, Indiana. And we move up Georgia. We swapped Georgia and Oregon. And then we added Oklahoma. Oh, and of course, South Florida is now, once again, the group of 5 leader. That's right. Our boys from South Florida are back. So let's take a look at the playoff rankings. All right. So you see, they have Ohio. Now look, we have the same top 3, except I have A&M 1, Ohio State 2, Indiana 3. So let me know what you think about that. Who do you agree with more? Do you agree with the college football committee, or do you like my rankings? Who do you like more? All right, so then it's Alabama, Georgia, Texas Tech, and we have Alabama. Wait, did they? I'm just noticing that. Wait a second. Wow. Okay. They don't have Notre Dame up there like I do. All right, so they have Alabama, Georgia, Texas Tech, and I have Alabama, Texas Tech, Georgia. It's not a big deal. I guess the biggest difference is I have Notre Dame at 4, and they have Notre Dame at 9. All right, and I have Ole Miss 7, Oregon 8. Okay. And I have Oregon 8 and Ole Miss 9. So not a big deal there. And I got Texas and Oklahoma rounding it out. And they have Texas and Oklahoma rounding it out. So there you go. Okay. And you could see there, you've got BYU. And at this point in time, they would be, a second. Well, again, just keep in mind, these are the rankings. This isn't how it's going to be because you have to have the group of 5 team in there. So who do they have? Do they have a group of 5 team in the top 25? They do. South Florida. So there you go. So South Florida is their group of 5 team, just like it is for us. Let's see if we can pop that up there. Here we go. So here's our group of 5. And South Florida's taken over once again because of Tulane's upset against Memphis. So James Madison moves up a little bit to 2. So how about that? Our top 2 preseason picks. We're at week 12 now. And our top 2 preseason picks for the group of 5, we had James Madison 1 and South Florida 2. Now, of course, these are just mine. But with South Florida, we're seeing eye to eye with the committee now with South Florida 1. I wonder where they have James Madison and the rest. But we have Tulane moving up after the win against Memphis. Texas moves up a little bit. We'll drop Memphis to 5. They're not out of it. There's East Carolina making a big move up to 6. They weren't in the top 10 last week. So I think this is the first time I put East Carolina in the top 10. It might be short-lived. Okay, because with East Carolina playing Memphis, the loser probably out of the top 10, and they're done. They're not going to the playoffs. San Diego State drops. I didn't drop them completely out because of the fact that, it was a loss that we actually thought could happen. As we talked last week, we thought Hawaii we had Hawaii as an upset play, and just kind of felt that San Diego State was kind of overdue for a bad one. They kind of showed you those signs against Wyoming the week before. Unfortunately, in the game, they lose one of their top defensive players for the season, and he's gone one game. And was it a coincidence? I think mostly because of the way the game was played. It was just a blowout, really. San Diego State mentally just not in it. But I do wonder how big of a deal that could be, because it wasn't just like he was their best player. It was more of a line as he was one of several really good players on the defense for San Diego State, one of the top defenses in the country, but he just happened to be more of like the leader of the defense, and that is big. You take him out. Now we'll find out this week against Boise if they can regroup, because if they lose again to Boise, especially without Boise Maxwell Madsen, you lose to Boise, and that loss becomes the death of the San Diego State this season. We moved Fresno State in after their upset against Boise a couple weeks ago, and Boise drops, and then you have Hawaii making their way into the top 10 following their upset over San Diego State. So there you go. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the 6 are from the American. Little old James Madison holding hope. But if it's not James Madison, it's definitely going to be a team from the American, which at this point in time, it kind of looks more and more likely that is what we are going to see. Okay. So there you go. That's the rankings to get us started. And what we're going to do next is we are going to go over everything. We're going to start in college football with the SEC, and then work our way all the way through each conference. So this is what we do each week if you're here for the first time. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to check them out. It's not like I have a producer helping me out. So that's part of the reason why it takes almost 3 hours to do the show. And appreciate the comment, Double Aces. That's the kind of motivation I need for a 2 to 3 hour show all by myself. And I'm not lonesome because I got you guys here. Okay. I tell you what, this is a really great, this is a good way to get started. So last week we had 3 double-digit upset plays. And I think I've said this before, and every several weeks, I think I have to remind everybody a couple things. First of all, on this channel, out of everybody you see on the channel regarding, the partners like Mark and Jim, or our guest handicappers that are, a recurring cast of characters, I guess you could say, I'm the only one that is not a professional handicapper. All right, that's number one. Number two, when I go over things like I say, okay, here are my upset plays, here are my double-digit upset plays, I always make sure that that when I give out, like last week, for instance, I give out 3 double-digit plays and I hit 1. Okay. And if that, and so the whole idea is with a double digit upset play that I do for myself. And that's, I do what I do. And I put together my, let's say I have 4 or 5 single digit upset plays and 3 double digit upset plays. So let's say this is my average every week. Well, this is what I do. This is what I put my money on, and I just let you know what I'm doing. That's it. So my strategy, because that's what it is, it's a strategy with the upsets, is I look at them and I try. So for instance, for the double digit upsets, I try to have at least 3 a week, because it's the best way to give yourself a chance to at least break even. All right. So that's the strategy. So let's say if I have a 4-1, a 5-1, and a 6-1 double digit money line plays for the week. All I have to do, my strategy is, all I have to do is hit one of them, and I'm already making money. It doesn't matter what the other 2 do. I'll make money, even if it's the 4-1. Okay, so if I put $100 on each, I've invested 300. I hit the 4-1. I'm right now already $100 ahead. And hey, if I hit a second one, I'm in great shape. But sometimes I'll do 4 or 5, and I need to hit 2 then. But that's the point. The point is that there's a strategy to doing it. It isn't, hey, I'm doing these double digit upsets because I really believe that team's going to pull off the upset. No, that's not what it's about. It's about, and that's why I go over it every week with you guys. I said, look, this is the reason that I think that this team is vulnerable. And on average, for the most part, I'm wrong. But that's the stats. You have to play the averages, and that's what we're doing. I know I'm going to lose on average, but I don't have to win all of the time and each and every pick. That's not the whole idea. So last week was a great example. We did not hit the other 2 double-digit lines, but we did hit the one that paid off. And I can't do video, but let's take a listen to how the announcer ended this was after the game ended, just after the game ended. Let's see what the announcer had to say.
Nobody in America thought the Cal Golden Bears had any chance to come into Louisville tonight and pull off the upset. But JKS, Justin Wilcox, and the rest of this Cal team, they had other ideas inside their head, and in the games.
Wait a second. That's not true. I thought they could pull off the upset. I did. What's up with the recognition? I'm not getting any here. So, yes, we had Cal. Why did we like Cal last week? What were the reasons? Well, look, we also said that we felt that Louisville could have the best team in the ACC. That I had no problem thinking that if I'm taking a team right now, last week, to win the ACC, I'd be just fine taking Louisville. But I also took Cal on the money line. And so, again, what was the reason? Well, their number 1 back out. And Isaac Brown is a big part of their offense because he dictates the offense. He's a physical running back. And they also have this other kid, another Brown running back. And he's okay, and he did okay, but he's not Isaac Brown. And what makes Louisville really dangerous is having both of them. So you take out the better one. Oh, I don't care if the other guy rushes for 80 yards or 100 yards. That's fine, because you're not rushing for 180 or 250, and you don't have that, the main guy who really runs the backfield. Throw in the fact that, overall, Louisville still a talented team. Love their receiver, Bell. I think he is going to be a sleeper star in the NFL, and I'm going to talk a lot more about him between now and next year's draft. I can guarantee you that. but they have a quarterback, they have a coach, they have a receivers, they got running backs. So they have what you need to win the ACC. But in the Cal game last week, the problem was, and I said it on the show on Tuesday last week, I think we did it on Tuesday, what was that line doing starting out at 20? That was ridiculous. And that was a big, bad sign immediately. This works against your team because that is such a big number. And it's basically telling everybody, oh, you've got this one. This is just this is Boston College. And that's the thing that I just couldn't get over. It's like, well, what kind of points would you have put at Boston College? Or, I don't know, Stanford, 30? I don't know if you would have done that. So it's like 20 for Cal. Now, the line did come down a couple of points. Just didn't understand it at all. And so that was the main thing, the running back injury and a lot of disrespect, as well as the fact that Louisville hadn't covered a game all season as a home favorite, which was a sign that tells you that, hey, if they're not covering every game as a home favorite, these games are a little closer than they should be. Throwing a Cal team coming off a loss, desperate for a win to go bowl eligible, getting completely disrespected and all that stuff. And hey, it worked out. Once again, it doesn't always work out as we know, but that one worked out. And good for Cal, bad for Louisville. So we're going to go through the standings as we go through this. We're going to start with the SEC. Okay, so let's pop up the SEC. And here you go. This is it. All right. Look, Vanderbilt and Oklahoma, I don't think they have a shot, not with 2 losses. So I'm going to move up here, even though Oklahoma's got Alabama. Okay, but Alabama's got a 2-point cushion. All right, so and that's going to really serve them well. So let's see. All right, Texas, Georgia, loser out. All right, we're going to get into the game in a minute. Ole Miss, they still have Mississippi State coming up, and we know with a rivalry like that, anything is possible. Get my paperwork here straightened out. Okay, so let me see. What do I have for Ole Miss? Ole Miss, Florida, then Mississippi State. So they got Florida this week, then at Mississippi State. I think they have a bye, and then they play at Mississippi State. All right. And again, Florida this week. I don't think they'll have any problems with Florida, but a Mississippi State game, that could be, imagine Mississippi State needs that game to go bowl eligible and Ole Miss needs it to potentially be in the SEC championship game. That's good theater. And Texas A&M, they have been our de facto number 1 team at this point in time for the national championship and for our rankings. And they've been like that for a reason, and they showed it again last week. They mean business. They have not had a bad week all season. They've had a couple of weeks where they could have played better, that the game was probably closer than it should have. And that does concern me a little bit because as good as they are, they're not that good, as we know. It's just impossible almost now at this stage of the way college football is for any team to be that good. And I know it's just a few years ago where we could say that there were teams like that were just dominant. But and what that means is that I get the feeling that still, I mean, will it be the Texas game? Could be. I don't think it's the Texas game if Texas beats Georgia, as weird as that may sound. And what I mean by that is if it means Texas A&M, Texas winner in, well, there's no doubt in my mind that the Aggies will win that one. But if it's, just Texas trying to spoil Texas A&M's undefeated season, they just lost to Georgia, I could see, maybe that's the loss. And you know what? Maybe they lose it and still go to the SEC championship game, or maybe Texas A&M loses in the SEC championship game. Either way, I think it would be better for Texas A&M to lose. I just do, but I'm not saying it's impossible to go undefeated even nowadays, but it's just, look, it's so hard. It really is, especially for the SEC. And at some point, you would think Texas A&M will get beat, but I think it'd be better to just get beat before the playoffs. This way you have a loss, you got it out of the way, you know what the losing feels like, and you don't want to be in that position again. And, you got to learn one of those lessons. And I just think it'd be a lot better for the team, but hey, not an impossibility if they're able to get to the playoffs undefeated. And then you got Alabama with that matchup against Oklahoma. And they still got the date with Auburn coming up as well. All right, so let's get into it. Let's take a look at the odds in the SEC. And here we'll start with Texas A&M. And that's up to 19 now. So we're already at the number where it just is a little bit too high. So, yeah, I'm not really going to be able to play this one. South Carolina, though, they're not going to a bowl this year. I wonder about Beamer. I think he's done a solid job there. I really do. So I just think that this season was so disappointing that with all sorts of really good coaches being fired, Beamer can go. Anything is possible. And we'll see about Sellers. Sellers will be back. I don't even know if I think Sellers is eligible. There's no way he can go pro. He needs another year. The problem is, let's say they keep Beamer, I think they're going to have to bring in another coach on offense. Otherwise, why would Sellers return? Why would he want to do that? I would, because he would have to be really disappointed with what took place this season around him. Now, he didn't have a great year himself, but he didn't get a lot of help. He didn't really have a lot of talent around him. And if that's what you're coming back with next year, well, how is he going to develop? Meaning, it's quite possible that Sellers transfers out. And I could see that happening. I think it would be the best thing for him. And especially it'll happen if Beamer loses his job. Or they open the job, they bring someone in, an offensive guy, and Sellers stays. That might even be the way to do it if you're South Carolina. Hey, how can we keep Sellers here for another year? Do we really trust Beamer? Is he really our guy? And look, I hope he is, because like I said, I think he's done a pretty decent job there. He's had one disappointing season, really. So I hope he stays. Okay. So, but anyway, South Carolina's lost 4 straight, and they do have one thing on Texas A&M. They've beaten him 2 out of the last 3 years, and they have covered all of those 3. So that's the one good thing, but it's not good enough. It's just a question of whether or not you want to go ahead with the points. If I'm taking the game, I'm taking A&M, even though South Carolina has not gotten blown out a lot. It's just been, they've been beat double figures and so forth, but I don't even know if they've lost this season by more than 19. I'd have to take a look at that again. So it is a lot of points. A&M probably at some, they don't have to impress anybody. With scoring, we got to add some points there in the no, they don't have to do that. LSU, Arkansas, the two of the teams with new head coaches. So interim coach A versus interim coach B, even though Bobby Petrino definitely has the edge on, Perkins or whatever his name is at LSU. Not very good. We talked about his resume last week. Okay, so LSU's, as you can see, a little bit more than a 5-point favorite. Arkansas. Now, Arkansas has been one of the more disappointing teams, though, because they have actually outgained 4 of the 5 teams that they have played in the SEC, including Texas A&M. Matter of fact, I think that's the only team, Texas A&M might have been the only team that they were outgained by. But that shows you how much talent Arkansas had. But as we said, at the firing of Pittman's earlier this year, if you remember, we said we didn't agree with it. Didn't think it was his fault. Now, if you want to move on, you think it's time to move on, you just want to bring in another coach, you think Pittman, he's done a nice job, but he isn't going to get you where you want to go. I have no problem with all of that. But I think what they were doing was, it was like, well, look, we're going to fire him anyway. So let's see if Petrino can get something out of this team. And if he impresses us, we can hire him. Well, that hasn't happened kind of because of what we talked about at the time, which was it's not Sam Pittman's fault of how this team was losing games. We've talked about the turnovers, and this team just knows how to lose. All right. And I know some of that is coaching, but a lot of it also has to do with the players. And that's why, as you can see, nothing's changed. This team could be 7-2 this season with the talent they have. And if they just had flipped the script and won the close games instead of losing them all. LSU still has a chance for a bowl. I wonder if they'll go bowling too. I wonder, the whole Penn State deal. I wonder how LSU feels about it. They'll get there. They got Western Kentucky next week. So they're more than likely they'll win that game. But Arkansas, they're not going anywhere. They've lost 7 straight. But Arkansas is 17-7 in their last 24 as a road dog. Okay, they're just 1-1 in that spot this year. Keep an eye on the quarterback situation because Nussmeier, he got benched late in the game last week. And, everybody kind of talked about, hey, here's a guy that could have been the first pick of the draft heading into the season, and look how bad he's played. And now he's getting benched by backup quarterback, former Mississippi State quarterback, Michael Van Buren. And so there's who should, talk about, hey, are they going to do that some more? Maybe Nussmeier starts, but look. See, this is the deal. This is how you have to handle your programs now. The problem is I don't think LSU does a very good job in their front office. There's too many different leaders, too many different people who think, they're the ones who know what's going on. Because if you did have someone leading the program, the best thing to do at this point in time, just like, it's actually it's the same thing the kids do to them. Whenever like the season's over and they decide not to go bowling because they don't want to get injured because they're going to the draft, all-star games, all that, whether you agree with them or not, that's what they do. And so, hey, if I'm running the program now, if Nussmeier, let's just say we get to a bowl, do you think Nussmeier is going to play? Hell no. So, well, why would I play him now then? What do I care? I'd say, hey, are you going to come back or are you leaving? Again, I don't even know if he's out of eligibility, but let's say he is because he's leaving. So, all right, so you're leaving, right? Okay, so why are we playing you? This is the kid that could have a future here. He's a talented quarterback. And let's just, hey, to me, it's sit Nussmeier, play Van Buren. Now, I don't know. You have to handle the whole thing with the NIL, and I have no idea what goes on behind closed doors with how these kids are being paid and how you treat them in situations like this and how could that affect them. So I get all that. But that's the reason why I think it's important that you have a program leader that knows this stuff. And that's just what I would do. Again, without really knowing everything, that seems like a really smart thing to do. Makes a lot of sense. Nussmeier, you could sit down. Let's see what Van Buren's got. LSU is 13-2 against this spread as an SEC home favorite of 12 or less. And they're 2-0 in that role this year. So you've got Arkansas's really good road dog record against LSU's really good SEC home favorite 12 or less record. And that really does cancel themselves out as far as I'm concerned. And I will say this. If I'm taking this game, I'm just taking Arkansas on the money line. I'm not going to touch this game for any other reason except, hey, why not? The way Arkansas's played all season, this is going to be a 4-quarter game. It's going down to the last drive or two. So why not? Maybe they'll pull one out. And I get 2-1 on the money line. So I think that's the way to go. So this line actually dropped a little bit to 6. I'm surprised by that. Started off at 7. And what you got here is you have one of the top teams in the country. And this is how vulnerable which is why it's great. This is how vulnerable these teams are now in college football, especially if you're in the SEC. Alabama's undefeated right now in the SEC, but they have one loss. If they were to get upset on Saturday, and nobody would be surprised, 2 losses. Now, what happens at any point the rest of the season if they lose again? 3 losses. Is it possible that they get knocked out and they're not even in the playoffs? That's possible. So that's how huge this game is for Alabama. You don't want to put yourself in that position because you do have to play your rival Auburn. And how many times have we seen, even just recently, where Auburn's had bad teams go up against good Alabama teams and have given Alabama all sorts of trouble. Don't forget the game just a couple of years ago when Alabama needed that 4th and 24 or whatever it was to convert to beat Auburn, or it would have been a monumental upset. So these can happen, especially Auburn being at home. So Alabama needs to just get rid of Oklahoma, but that's not going to be easy. To me, I think it's all about Mateer and whether or not the injury that he sustained to that hand is going to heal at all, and he's going to have the opportunity to look like the old John here. First of all, the question is that even possible that it could happen this season? Secondly, is it possible that it could happen this week? So this is the thing that we're just not going to know until we watch the games each week with Mateer. And I think that's all it's about. If Mateer plays the way he's been playing since the injury, no way. I give Oklahoma a little chance to win this game without it. Because check this out. Since the last 4. So since he's returned, he's got a 2 touchdown to 4 interception ratio. That is not John Mateer. Also, this is important. If you want to take Alabama and you're going, 6 points, I'm glad it's come down a little bit. Don't worry about it. And this is why. 2 things. One, as you know, because we've taken Alabama several times this season as a home favorite, and they keep covering at home. It's just the one time that we really didn't like it was the Vanderbilt game. But they're 25-7-1. ATS home favorite since 2020. 5-0 this season. And we've already taken them, 3 times, I think? I know we've taken them every time they've been at home after the Vandy game. And that's why I'm taking them again. Because until I see John Mateer do it, until he looks like the old John Mateer, I'm not going to just blindly have faith that he's going to look like the old John Mateer. So, of course, I'm going to stick with Alabama. And here's another good one. All right. Since last year, Oklahoma has 9 losses, 7 last year, 2 this year. They've only had 1 loss out of those 9 that has been by 7 or less. And you know what the number was? 7. So if that trend holds and Oklahoma loses, well, then Alabama will win by at least 7, and I'm covered. So that means something to me, and so that gives me 2 sides: Alabama's home record and that poor record for Oklahoma when they lose. So that to me also means something. And this is why I'm not a big Venables coach, even though they got 7 wins this year. He's done his best job, no doubt about it. It's also his most talented team. And it's not like he's done, coached the team. And I think the only game that he's coached in which I was impressed was the game last week against Tennessee. And Tennessee's just okay. They're not even as good as they were last year. We know that. So it's a good win. I think the Michigan win earlier this year was also a good win. But as we found out later on, as I'll talk about with the Big Ten a little bit, Michigan really wasn't as good as we thought, or at least I thought. So, yeah. And again, I think that's important because if you lose all of your games by 7 or more, that's telling me that your team doesn't get involved in a lot of close games. And so when you lose, you're not in it. And I'm not saying I want to be a coach that's like 0-8 in one-score games. See, Venable doesn't have to worry about that because since last year, he's only been involved in one game in a loss in that situation. So let me see how many games. Let me see how many games he's won by 7 or less. That matters a little bit too. Not as much as not for the reasons that we're talking about, but okay. So he has a 7-point win against Auburn, and that was a push. And that's it. Oh, excuse me. The 6-point win last week as a dog, though. He was a dog. So 6. Last year, he had a 4-point win, a 6-point win, and that's it. So it's not like he's like 6-1 in one-score games. No. So yeah, it's not a good look as far as I'm concerned. And Oklahoma will be at home in their next 2. So this is their road finale. Alabama's got FCS and then Auburn on the road. Also, Alabama has covered 8 straight versus winning teams following a straight-up upset win. Oklahoma, of course, had the upset win last week against Tennessee. So another reason to like Alabama. There is one thing that sticks out that I'm very unsure about, and that does bother me. And that is the fact that even though Alabama's in a revenge situation, and that could be a good thing, it could also be a bad thing because they lost 24-3 last year as a 14-point road favorite. And what that says is, well, there's a possibility that that's a bad matchup for Alabama. And we know in any sport, your team just has bad matchups, no matter who it is. Sometimes it's your rival, like Ohio State, Michigan lately, but could it be Oklahoma for Alabama? Now, if that's 24-21, it's not a bad matchup. It's just a loss. But when you lose 24-3, and we know Oklahoma's got a really good defense, that does give me some pause, some thought. It's not going to be as big as a pick as I had last week because LSU is clearly in a totally different situation than Oklahoma is. And I'd be a lot more concerned this week. But I'm still taking Alabama. Just isn't going to be as big as I liked Alabama last week. All right, here's that Ole Miss game. It's now up to 14.5, 9-1. You see him on the rankings. I don't see this affecting them. You know, I did get an opportunity, and this is why it's kind of funny, because just to remind everybody, here on Proline TV, we are part of the Our Lads Football Network. I'm the executive producer of the Our Lads Football Network. And we got together. Dan Shonka runs the company. The owner, basically, he's the man, has been the man at Our Lads for as long as I've known Our Lads. This goes all the way back to the time that I just started in streaming. I left terrestrial radio, went to streaming, and within several months, when I first started getting involved, and I was looking online for some draft experts, and I came across a really good informative site. Might even still be around. I think it was called Draft Countdown, NFL Draft Countdown. And it had a lot of really good information. And so I said, hey, I like this. Good information. I think his name was Scott Wright. And so he was basically my draft expert. And I figured, hey, this is a great opportunity. You know, I'm very popular because, you know, they had a really good following there. And I said, oh, this is good for me. Just starting up. And then I had Dan on as a guest. I forget how I got him on. I'm sure I found Our Lads like a lot of people do. And oh, this is a really good site. Let me see if he'd be interested in coming on as a guest. And I had him on as a guest. And we hit it off. And I remember talking to him and thinking about the possibility of, well, I've got this thing with Scott. And again, I'm really green in the internet streaming business at the time, like most of us were, by the way. It was brand new concept. Trying to figure out how is this going to be more beneficial for me. And I found out pretty quickly that, it made more sense for me to go with Dan. And Dan had no problem letting me know that, because he was very adamant about making me understand the difference between what he does and what a lot of these internet writers do. Because Dan has an NFL history. Dan worked in the NFL. Dan was a scout, a long history. And so, of course, he's going to take offense to bloggers, these new internet owners who, just because they're really good at putting together a website and information and marketing that information to the internet, that makes them an expert. And so, and this is, for me, I had no problems with Scott, but it was a obvious decision for me, because Dan even mentioned this to me, and basically, like I said, he pretty much tutored me on the difference. What was the difference? Well, it's pretty simple. I worked in the industry, and these guys, and he wasn't specifically pointing at Scott or anybody, but he was like a broad view of the entire industry. And I was like, great, I'll do it. Let's get together. And so since then, we ended up, let's see, I think it's been 15 years, longer than that, close to 20. And I bring this up also because I don't know why it came up, but I might've been looking for something related to the draft online. And I might have been looking for, because what I like to do is I always like to find out what everybody else is thinking about specific, like what's the general consensus right now for everybody on the 2026 or 2027 draft with quarterbacks. So I of course have a much, I am tuned in with our lads and what we know as, or they know as, experts as far as who are the guys you need to follow. But I like to compare and see what's out there. And one of these sites, just to show you how ridiculous it was that some of these sites are, one of these sites that gets a first page Google real estate spot. And I didn't even have to go into the site, because I saw it as part of hey, I'm supposed to click and I see what's already considered the number one quarterback, the number one player of the 2027 draft. Do you know what this site had? They had DJ Lagway. And it was embarrassing. And I was like, I mean, you've got to be kidding me. You're on the front, you get first page real estate on Google. And what you do with that is to put DJ Lagway as the number one pick of the 2027 draft. That kid, at this point in time, he doesn't even have a chance to make the NFL, let alone be the first overall pick of the 2027 draft. I wish him well, because the NFL needs quarterback play. I know as a Jet fan, and it needs quarterbacks, and it really brings down the league big time. And I didn't really think it was going to affect the league this poorly, but it has. We knew we were going to go through a lull when all of the great quarterbacks left us. Aaron Rodgers is the last one left, and when he leaves, and really Flacco is still a part of that as well. When they go, that's it. And it just shows you, too, how poorly our quarterbacks are now, how poorly, whether you could say how poorly they're coached or whatever the case, but it also shows you how weakly talented the NFL is in general compared to just 10 years ago or 15 years ago. And that's not about, and I'm not trying to say that it can't be, because it can. It's not because, oh, well, the players were better when I was in my prime as a fan. Yeah, they were the best. No, it wasn't because of that. Because again, they could still turn it around, and it should be the best now because these kids are more explosive and more athletic than ever before. We should be in the glory days of NFL, and we're not. And everybody knows basically the reasons for that. It's the inability to get physical during the offseason and all of that limited practice time. The combination is the single biggest issue. And then throw in the NFL going, oh, you know what we're going to do is we're going to now extend the season and add another game. And so is it a wonder that we have the injury issues in the NFL that we have? Never have I seen the injury issues in the NFL like I see it right now. And how does the NFL wanted to, we had to change the kickoff rules because of injuries. Well, if they've got that report that led them to that, where's the report now? Where's the report? Where's the change now? What are you going to do now? Because you do happen to see all the injuries going on in the NFL like it's never been before, right? You get that. So how are you going to change it? You know, they're not going to say anything and they're not going to talk about it because they know they can't change it, even though they can. But they can't because, especially the way the society is nowadays, they're never going to want to go back to it. They're never going to want to say, oh, yeah, we're going to add more practice time. No. Once they've gone down the road of allowing less and less time to practice, they screwed themselves, maybe for good. Now, I don't know whether or not a new commissioner will change all of that because the commissioner is basically the puppet of the owners anyway. Even though I like the owners' side on this because the owners, I don't think they want less practice. This is about the union. And I get why they're doing it. I do. And I'm not saying, oh, screw concussions, just let them play. None of that. It's just about there's got to be a balance. There has to be. Because this product we have in the NFL is just bad. And that leads us back to quarterbacks. And that's the thing really that is bad. And so until we start getting more and more talent at the quarterback position, and throw in everything else that I just talked about, the league's in big trouble. Why do you think the same teams win every year? Why do you think when the smoke clears, oh, it's going to be Baltimore and Buffalo and Kansas City. Oh, the Eagles will be back too. And oh, they got the Rams and Matthew Stafford. I guess he's another one. He's kind of, he's still around. He's like Flacco and Rodgers, and he's still, big surprise that he's still around. And he's one of the very few that's still around, and he's one of the best teams. Is that a surprise? Of course not. Why do you think Joe Flacco and Stafford and even Rodgers at this point of his career, even though Stafford's playing a lot better than Rodgers, but I think if Rodgers was playing for McVay in LA with that team, I think Rodgers might be playing just like Stafford. So I'm not going to say that I think Stafford's better than Rodgers, even though he is a little bit younger. But the fact is, they're all playing reasonably well at this stage of their careers, at their ages, because they come from that era. They come from when times were tougher. So now that things have eased up and they have all this experience and all this knowledge, and they still have the ability athletically to play, it's like they've seen everything. And that's why it's a lot easier for them to go out there and perform this way. This is why Matthew Stafford and the Rams have got to be a very, very good bet to be one of the teams left standing. Because again, if we're talking about Kansas City and Baltimore and Buffalo and Philly won last year, and they'll probably be there again. The Rams can definitely be, but look, they just won a Super Bowl a couple of years ago too. So it's not like they're a new kid on the block. But again, it just shows you that there's just, and I know I'm getting into this NFL thing, but getting back to the comic relief of putting DJ Lagway as the number 1 pick of the draft. Yeah. And this is what started it, talking about Florida. That kid, look, same thing we talked about with Sellers. And Sellers a lot better than Lagway. But if Lagway wants to become a good quarterback and he wants to have a chance to go to the NFL and prosper, well, he's gonna really, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens there, because who comes to Florida? So it's a good opportunity. I still think Penn State's the best opportunity. The LSU, Penn State right up there, 1-2 probably is job opportunities right now. Florida, I'd probably put them 3 at this point, no higher than 3. But it's early. Again, there still could be other job opportunities available. And even with Auburn, to tell you the truth, I think Auburn is just. I think Auburn's every bit as good an opportunity as Florida. I think Florida is better only because of the region it's in and the state it's in and the fertility of the talent in Florida. Much easier chance to, because Auburn is competing directly with Alabama. And then they also got to compete with Georgia, not too far off. But Florida, state of Florida. And even though, yes, you got Florida State and Miami, that's okay, because that state is so big and there's so much talent there that if you recruit well in that state, like really well, there's no question that you are going to have a top 5, top 10 team every year. And that's the reason why look, you also have to consider that anytime Florida has been any good, they've had a very good coach. So this is not like, these other great programs, that like even I could say with Michigan. Harbaugh is a class in itself, no question about it. But he even struggled a little bit. But even when he struggled a little bit, you still had, decent enough seasons or good seasons. He had like one bad season, but he had good seasons. And you throw in the fact that even now it's Sharon Moore, a good season. But Florida to have these bad seasons, I mean, that just doesn't even make any sense. You shouldn't have bad seasons at Florida. But again, what you see a university and a program that it's like hit or miss. It's like if they don't get a Spurrier or an Urban Meyer type, then they could be they could have non-bowl type seasons. And at Florida, that is just, there's no excuse for that. None at all. And this is why I question how things are done there. That's why I don't think, now look, keep this in mind. This is just a football team. All right, because they have a good amount of success at other levels of athletics at the University of Florida. So I'm just talking about the football team. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe for whatever reason, they just don't understand what they need to do to have the best possible coach running that program. And maybe they feel because we're Florida and look at all the success we're having in all the other athletic programs here. It's okay. We're still making a lot of money and, we're a successful program and we've got name brand recognition. I don't know. Maybe there's also, look, I do not like the way the Florida program is run. So let's not even go down that road. Same thing with LSU. I think they got really big problems. Is it a surprise that both of those teams fired their coaches? What they really should have done is fire themselves. But both of those programs could be in the national championship game next year, even Florida, if they hire the right head coach. Because that's how quick you can change things now in college football. Very quickly. All right, so as far as this game, Ole Miss 5-1 ATS is a home favorite this year, 3-0 versus the SEC. They have not beaten Florida since the 2002 season at home. So it's a long time coming. I'm sure they want to check that off the list. They did lose last year to Florida. They lost by 7 as a 13-point road favorite. So you got some revenge. We want to beat this team at home. So I think you've got enough motivation there at Ole Miss. And look, Florida 1-3 straight up, ATS last 4, 0-4 ITS last 4, 0-3 straight up and against the spread as true road dogs this year by an 80-34 margin. The Georgia game does not count. So, and Kentucky was part of that. We liked Kentucky last week because we felt, remember we talked about them giving, they had that week off and they gave it their all against Georgia. This was their last chance to salvage the season. And as soon as they lost that game, especially the way that they lost it, it was just the same thing that's happened all season. And their motivation just completely went away. And they don't have a head coach to look up to. They know there's no leader there, somebody to really look up to. And then you get to that point where everybody starts thinking about where am I going to be next year? Now, Florida State handled it well after the upset at Stanford, and they came back and they did beat Wake Forest. What will Florida do? Okay, now Florida's got to win these next 3 games for bowl eligibility. That ain't happening. But you could say, well, they still have hope. There's a reason to play, and that is true. But Ole Miss is clearly the better team. Look, if Florida was playing well, this line would be about 7, half of it. So you do have to take that into consideration that maybe the line is a little big only because of the way Florida played in one game last week, for the most part. And I get that, but there's no way am I putting money on Florida. I'll tell you that right now. If I'm taking this game, I'm taking Ole Miss. I would side with Ole Miss, no question, but it's not a big one. Now, here is a big one. And I get the feeling that we're going to talk more about this game in the next couple of days, one way or another, either on our show Thursday or Friday with the boys. But Georgia is also a 6-point home favorite, just like Alabama. Texas, if you could look at it one way and say, well, they're starting to play their best football now. Yeah, that could be possible. I mean, they put a nice run together. But you could also look at it and say, yeah, but again, who have they beat? They had to go to overtime and come back down 3 scores to beat Mississippi State. They went to overtime with Kentucky. They did beat Vanderbilt. Okay, that's actually probably their best win of the season. But is that a good thing? As great a season as Vanderbilt has, is that really a good thing? I mean, yeah, they lost Ohio State the first game of the season, which was a good loss, but I think we all remember that game, and that really wasn't a good loss. That was an ugly loss, really, for both teams. It was an ugly win for Ohio State. And their other big win was the Oklahoma win, and they won that game. A lot of it, of course, had to do with Mateer being less than ideal health-wise. They also lost to Florida. Texas did. All right, don't forget that. This is the first time Texas has been a dog since the week 1 loss at Ohio State. Arch is playing better. He's thrown for 674 yards in his last 2 games with a 6-to-1 TD interception ratio. So that's good. So look, and I mentioned this before the Vanderbilt game. Remember when I said that I was concerned on the Vanderbilt side with the Texas matchup because how Texas did respond to win those games. And that means something. So even when your team look, Texas is not winning a national championship this year. This isn't about to be some dramatic turnaround, and Arch is going to do everything at the end of the season, what people thought he'd do in the beginning of the season, and you watch, and he's going to go ahead and he's going to be the playoff MVP. And no, Texas is not even going to the playoffs because they're going to lose this game, and they might even lose the A&M game. So I do not believe in this Texas team. And if I'm wrong, then I will be wrong. But I am not backing Texas right now. The only way that, really, this is their season. This is it. And this is the way it should be anyway, because the way they have to look at it is, or the way I'm looking at it, is if Texas wins this game, then obviously they are back for real. And they have just beaten as good as a team as you can beat on the road. And you are now a true championship contender. Everything is about this game. But if you lose the game, now you're just the same team we thought you've been all season. You've been overrated. You've just beaten pretty bad teams. You've got a couple of decent wins because you're a talented team. Heck, we all thought beginning of the season, you should be the best team and with the Heisman winner. So we knew the talent was there, but I'm looking at a 4-loss team here, and it could even be a 5-loss team if they go to a bowl and lose. But that's what I'm seeing. And I think Georgia is coming into this game at the right time as well, because they've had their games. I mean, lucky to beat Tennessee late, go to overtime. The win against Florida, having to come back and score a touchdown in the last 5 minutes to beat the Gators. But the response last week to beat a hot Mississippi State team that had only lost one cover all season, just blow them out. I think that was very important, and that's why I believe. See, if Georgia was kind of they had beaten Mississippi State last week by 3, and maybe they get a field goal at the buzzer or goes to overtime, whatever, I would probably either be on the Texas side this week, or I might be, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. But because Georgia responded the way that they did, I think I believe a lot more now that they are headed in the right direction. Not the narrative I was saying about Texas. No, that's a phony narrative about, oh, we're going to be the team everybody thought we were going to be when the season began. I'm believing that with Georgia, not Texas. And that's how I'll play it this week. So if I lose, then I'm wrong. But that's the way I'm going to go. So I'm going to take Georgia minus the 6. Don't forget they beat Texas twice last year, including in the championship game. And they beat them twice as dogs. Don't forget that. The dogs were dogs in both games last season. And this is the SEC finale for Georgia. So this is it. Okay, so if they win this game, they're in it. They've got a shot. They are legitimately, and of course, they're just waiting to see, more so hoping that it's Texas A&M that loses. So, because they've got the loss to Alabama. So if they can find a way, like for instance, you beat Texas, then you hope Texas beats Texas A&M, then you're in second place. You could be in a 3-way tie with Ole Miss. You've beaten Ole Miss, okay, but you haven't played Texas A&M. But maybe the way could be, I don't know how SEC does the ranking, the tiebreakers. I don't know if they go with the highest ranked team or they go percentage of likely wins, whatever. But Georgia will have a shot. So their best shot is for you beat Texas, obviously, and then you hope that Texas can knock off Texas A&M. And if that happens, and that could very well happen, you could see Texas A&M be basically first place all year, lose the last game of the season to Texas, their rival Texas, and end up out of the SEC championship game, but in the playoffs. So, and again, I think it could be the best thing for Texas A&M. I don't even think, right nowadays, nobody even really cares about these championship games much, unless it's a really nice rivalry matchup or whatever, or if you haven't been there in a while and okay, it's great to win a championship, but really, everybody wants to win a playoff championship now. So, So in that respect, it might even be the best thing. You have an extra week off. You can rest everybody. And like I said, you check the list off of a loss. And so that could happen. And then maybe you see a rematch, Georgia-Alabama championship game. Okay, next. So speaking of Mississippi State, this is a game where I can say, even though I thought Mississippi State was going to continue playing well last week and that they were a legitimate upset possibility, and it didn't happen, and they played as bad as a game as they played all season. But now, even though you're on the road, you should be in a better situation because you're playing Missouri, not Georgia, and you're playing Missouri with their true freshman quarterback who did not play well. That was the big surprise last week, that Zollers was as bad as he was. Not only was he just 7 of 22 for 77 yards, but his average completion was 3.5 yards. That is bad. That is not going to get it done against top teams like Texas A&M. Now, Mississippi State, it could work. If Ahmad Hardy has a big day and rushes for 250, yes, it could happen. But look, bottom line is now Mississippi State, look, if you're a bowl team, you're a halfway decent team, and I think Mississippi State is. They're a halfway decent team. They've had a nice little season. This is the type of situation that they could take advantage of because Missouri is now out of it. That's it. No SEC championship for them. It's over. They were already bowl eligible too. So what does this game mean for them? Pecking order for a bowl, home finale, senior day, stuff like that. That's it. And you're playing Mississippi State. So that's why I think Mississippi State this week is a decent play. On the money line, 2-1, as you can see, a little over 2-1. They're the team that they need this game. Missouri does not need the game. The game, like I just said, has nothing to do with anything with Missouri. Okay. You might say, well, yeah, but they can still go to the playoffs. No, they're not going to the playoffs. Okay. The only teams that are going to playoffs with 3 losses, if you're going to go with 3 losses, is you have to be one of these big time teams with these big time losses, games where we lost by 3 here and 2 there. And, and we're whatever. Let's just say, hey, we're Alabama. And that didn't even work out for Alabama last year, remember? So, yeah. So Missouri's not going anywhere. They're not going to the playoffs. So they're not playing for anything compared to Mississippi State, which you should keep. This is important, okay? Keep in mind that Blake Shapen, in the game last week, I think it was in the second half, he injured his head. So you know what that means. So you got to find out whether Camario Taylor is going to play the game. Now, just like Zollers, he's a true freshman. Last week, when he played against Georgia, 6 of 10, 87 yards, and 8.7 average, which isn't bad. Also added 53 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns rushing. So it was a really good game for the true freshman in more time that Zollers had to replace Prabula in his situation. But then what happened the next week when he had all the practice time and he knew he was going to play? Well, he didn't have a good game. And that's what happens when you're a freshman. Now, Missouri, well, they're going to get ready for this freshman. Georgia wasn't preparing for him at all. So you do have to keep that in mind. Mississippi State, if you're thinking, road, whatever, well, they upset Arkansas and they lost by 2 at Florida in the last 2 road games. So I wouldn't worry about that. But definitely, I feel a lot better if Blake Shapen is the quarterback, no doubt. I tell you, I might not even take Mississippi State if Shapen's not playing, but I might. This would be one of those perfect examples of. I probably think Missouri is going to win the game if the true freshman's playing. But I do like the scenario I talked about where you never know. Maybe the freshman comes out there and plays a good game because Missouri is not invested in the game. Sort of like the way, Texas A&M was invested in the game when they defended Zollers. So that's unfair to Zollers in that situation. And that's it for the SEC. All right. So there you go. SEC talk. Let's talk about the Big Ten. Let's take a look at the Big Ten standings first. Okay. And here we go. All right. So Indiana gets the big comeback win against Penn State. Ohio State, pretty obvious. We've kind of felt this was going to be the case the last few weeks, and Indiana almost let that get away last week. But it's still looking now like it's in, because look, Indiana, they got through the one game that I guess could have been there, and it happened. It almost happened, the upset, but they're not losing to Wisconsin or Purdue. Okay. But what that game did say to me, though, was that Indiana is not ready. They're not ready to win a national championship. I think what they're ready to do is take the next stage, meaning last year we got to the playoffs, quick exit. This year, maybe you win a playoff round or 2. That's it. I don't look at Indiana as a championship team. I don't think they have it in them. I just don't, because they're going to have to beat, what was it? They may have to beat 4 really good teams in a row, or 3 out of 4, whatever. They have to win some. It's too much for a team that has the most embarrassing schedule the last 2 seasons for a playoff team. And keep this in mind, until the 2030 season, Indiana's schedule, unless they add a team right now, and I don't know if that'll happen. It probably won't. Their out of conference schedule is the same type of schedule you've seen last year and this year. Nothing. There's no marquee game. Not until 2030 when they take on Notre Dame. That's it. So Indiana is going to go into the next 3 seasons, whatever, playing the same cupcake non-conference schedule that they played. And I just hope at some point it bites them in the butt, because that's not right. You got to play somebody. Now, maybe the Big Ten can find a way to give them a really tough conference schedule. Maybe have them play 5 of the top teams that next year. So now I don't know. They can't. I don't think they could rig it that way. Even though I wouldn't hold it past anything going on in the NCAA. But that's what I'd like to see. Okay, so then you have USC Oregon next week. Monster game. USC's got to get past Iowa first, but this is it. These are the only teams that have a shot, and you have to put all these teams in there, because even though Indiana will not lose, Ohio State still has Michigan. And since Michigan beat them last year, that'll be a situation that we'll be able to talk about for years with that rivalry. We'll be able to say, we'll always be able to reference the 2024 game and say, if either school is having a down year, we'll always be able to reference that and going, remember the 24 game, as bad as Michigan was that year, because that's about as bad as Michigan can basically be as a program. They still won, so anything's possible, and that includes this year. So even though it's more than likely Ohio State and Indiana will face each other in the Big Ten championship game, if Ohio State were to lose, then the winner of USC Oregon has a shot, as well as Michigan does. All right, so we'll see what happens. Okay, so let's rock into these games in the Big Ten. Speaking of Oregon, this line ballooned up 3 points in the last couple of days, and I'm not surprised, because I really liked this game at 22. Now it's up to 25, so now I like it because I still believe the whole reason of really liking it at 22 was just because I think this is going to be a blowout, sort of what happened when Oregon blew out Rutgers after they lost to Indiana. I think you'll get that same response here with Minnesota. Even though they didn't lose, they won. It does. I think they're going to get their young tight end back, who might be the top tight end in the entire draft class this upcoming season. I don't think they're getting more back at receiver, though. So, but I think they will be healthier. And even more important, coming off that game, I think they're going to want to stretch their wings, strut their stuff like the Rutgers game. And they're taking on the perfect team to do it, or the perfect bowl team to do it, because Minnesota has been outgained by 6 of their 7 Power 4 teams this year. And they are 0-3 straight up and against the spread on the road on the season by a 110-20 margin. And that was taking on Ohio State, Iowa, and Cal. 110-20. Minnesota. And again, now they're already bowl eligible. They got that taken care of last week dramatically in overtime. So I think it's the perfect week for Minnesota to kind of, we're bowling. Let's go out to Eugene. And it's short week 2, extra, one less day. They've never been to Eugene. And I think they're going to get beat up bad. So, and if Oregon doesn't beat up or Minnesota bad, that's another sign that Oregon, there's a chink in that armor. I don't think Oregon's a national championship caliber team. I think they're too young at those spots. I've said it all season, and I haven't changed my mind. Okay, so we're here at this game, and I mentioned this last week. And again, the same thing I talked about with the double-digit upsets last week on a week-to-week basis is the same thing with this game this week. Because remember, last week, Northwestern, I was in there with the USC game. I forget what the other third game was. And then I said, well, I'm taking Northwestern this week and next week. Meaning, if they lose this week to USC, they don't win this game, I'm taking them next week. And I really feel confident that one of those games they'll win. And that was my strategy. So the loss last week was not a surprise. I definitely felt more comfortable this week because they're at home and they're also against a team that isn't as athletic and mature as USC. Michigan is the youngest team in the Big Ten. They are vulnerable. You know, they had a 4-quarter game with Michigan State, even though it was early fourth quarter. They had a 4-quarter down to the wire game with Purdue. Okay. So, look, Bryce Underwood is going to be, as long as he's coached correctly, either in college or the pros, he is going to be an electric star quarterback in the NFL. He has everything you want in the package: the talent, the athleticism, the drive. He is going to make it, and he's going to make it big. And I'll tell you right now, he will be the first pick of the 2020. So he's got to play 2 more seasons. So he'll be the first pick of the 2028 NFL draft. Lock it in. But that's not where we're at now. And because they're so young and they have a banged up offensive line, and his receivers, for the most part, have been underwhelming. Now, I said this about 5 weeks ago or something like that, a month ago, where I said the only way I might have said this either before or right after the USC loss. And I said, unless Michigan finds a freshman quarterback, because it happens a lot in college football, that for like 5 or 6 games every season, you think this is your team. That's it. This is my team. I can't make any trades. This is it. But no, what'll happen is all of a sudden you notice, wait a second, there's a freshman player that's been actually making his way up the depth chart, and he's now gotten a little bit extra time in the last couple of weeks playing, and now he's given the opportunity to start, and boom, we've got ourselves a player. And that's exactly what Michigan has at wide receiver. So they have a really good wide receiver. So they have a freshman wide receiver they can count on. The problem is that's all they got. Now, they do have the kid from Indiana, the converted quarterback. He's a solid player too. And they got some decent tight end players, and they've got a really good running back. And really, they got two good backs, but one really good back. Haynes is the guy that really has to be healthy. And that's big. So let me see if I see anything regarding his status, because that is a big deal on him playing or not. Okay, let's see. Update on Haynes. This is not good. He's going under the knife. So when is he going to be available? Let's see. Does it say it here? Week to week. Okay. So I don't expect he's going to be back. If he truly had surgery on his foot, now, is he going to have surgery already, or is he going to have surgery? Or is he going to have surgery later? All right. I haven't seen it. Anyway. So this is a big deal, okay? Because I'm sure what they're hoping is that he will be back for Ohio State. So I do not expect him to play on Saturday, and that's even bigger. So without Haynes, they are now completely vulnerable. I'm actually surprised the line went up to 12. The money line went to 4-1. So good. I'm all for it. I know Northwestern's already delivered for us with the 21-point upset win over Penn State. But I'm going, this is a more reasonable number than that game. And it shows you, hey, if they could beat Penn State plus 21, then they could beat Michigan. Also, they're at home. USC was the first team to outgain them in the previous 5. So they tried to go 6 straight. It ended, but still 5 of the last 6, they've outgained the opponent. Northwestern, okay? So, they are a solid team in this Big Ten. Now, Michigan has beaten Northwestern 8 straight times, including last year 50-6. 50-6 as a 10-point home favorite. So I'm thinking Northwestern might remember that. They need a bowl for eligibility, which they'll get anyway because they're going to host Minnesota next week. So if they lose this game, they'll beat Minnesota. They'll be in the bowl. But I'm definitely taking Northwestern here. I think you should do that as well. Oh, and I see the line is now dropped already from 400 to 370 on the money line. So I like it either way. This line is going to be too big. What an embarrassing loss for Washington last week against Wisconsin. Shame on Jed Fish. Shame on him. Okay. And shame on Wisconsin for giving Fickle the opportunity to come back and coach. Shame on him. Shame on them. Because he's the one that changed the team. He's the one. This has nothing to do with NIL. This has to do with him coming in there going, oh, I can change the way things are done here. Even though Wisconsin has been forever a run-first team. We play power football. We run the ball. We have a 2,000-yard back every year. And we play really good defense. And that's our style. That's what we do. And that's how we're successful. Well, Fickle comes in and he's like, well, that's not good enough. I don't want to just be successful, I guess. I want to do something different. I want to come up with I'm going to catch up with everybody else. I want to try to get Wisconsin to the 2025 college football. We got to start throwing the football around here. And I got to bring in, a overhyped up, pass happy offensive guru to come in here and spread it out and run things the way it should be run. And it completely destroyed the program, at least offensively. They still play decent defense, but that offense is just an embarrassment. And so they're basically saying, oh, go ahead. You ruined everything while you were here. So now let's use NIL as an excuse. So you'll stay here another year. I'm going to be interested to find out, since he's coming back, what he does next year. Is he going to be smart enough to say, and keep the ego in check and say, we're going back to the basics. We're going back to the success here. What made this university successful? Because that's the way Wisconsin is going to win anyway. You are not going to win these battles with Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Oregon, USC. You get it. You're not winning those battles with NIL. You're not doing it. So even if you bring in extra money, sure, you'll be able to add some other players here, but you have got to still recruit like they did in the old days. It's got to be, we got to get big offensive linemen, and we've got to run the football and play really good defense and special teams, sort of like Iowa. That's what they got to do. So we'll see. Good luck, Wisconsin fans. All right, Iowa, USC. And this will be a tough one for USC, but Iowa, you do have to wonder about their state of mind after the loss last week, because that was a killer. They still had a chance for the Big Ten championship. Everything was on the line, and they just couldn't hold them off on the final drive. Dante Moore had done nothing the entire game. I think it's funny how, what's his name on the broadcast for the Penn State game, Indiana game. And, he flips out all the time. And then he basically said something about the Heisman. Give him the Heisman now. Okay. Give him the Heisman now. So if you're going to say that about Mendoza, then you could have said the same thing about Dante Moore. Because he did nothing the whole game. And when it mattered the most, he brought the team down in field goal range and he kicked the field goal and they won their game. So don't hand me this. Give him the Heisman. I've shared my disgust about that award enough. It's terrible. That award, that's just it's just another bad example, another good example of how bad the college football has become. That all we're doing is giving the Heisman Award now to the best quarterback, whoever looks the best quarterback, like a number one draft pick. That's what the Heisman is now. Okay, so that's going to be tough for Iowa to come back from. because now they're in that same situation I just talked about with some of these other teams. Is now like Missouri. Well, what do we do? What are we playing for? We're playing for pride. That's it. And they're on the road too. So Missouri is at least home finale. Iowa, they're on the road, and they're in California. So that's probably another distraction for these Iowa kids. But they are 6-1-1 against the spread, and they're 2-0-1 against the spread as a dog this year. So that's a lot of good stuff. But USC is 8-1 against the spread since last year as a home favorite. So that cancels itself out. USC, as I said, have Oregon next week on the road, then UCLA at home, of course, to end their season. And they have a shot. They really do. If they can upset Oregon next week, they put themselves in position in case Ohio State gets upset by Michigan. Now, they've got the Michigan win, so that helps them. I don't know, again, how the tiebreaker would work, but it gives them a shot. It's homecoming for USC, so I think, that matters. You see some really great players hanging around, and there's a lot of sometimes it's pressure. That's definitely a lot to know that you're going to get your best effort without a doubt from USC. So yeah, this is a tough one because of the number being 7. But I don't know. I just think the way USC's been playing, I think the win last week, I think that was a really good win against Northwestern team that has the same type of team like Iowa. Iowa, more advanced version of Northwestern. So I definitely see this as a tougher game. But I just think USC is just rolling at this point in time. And if I had to take the game, I'm not going to take it, but if I had to take the game, I'd probably go with the Trojans. Penn State, they're now in a situation, as I said before, they can still win 3 straight, bowl eligible, whether they want to take that or not. Nebraska next week, Rutgers after that. They are 0-5 against the spread as a favorite this year. Remember that. 0-5 against the spread. So this has not been when they played their best football. And also remember, it's their best win, of the season were the games they played early on when they beat Nevada and FIU. Those are their best wins. Okay, now I know they have been playing better. The kid Grunkenmeyer, we talked about this. The kid has been playing better and better, and that is really a good sign for him, especially if he stays at Penn State. So look, if you get the Penn State from last week, and this is here's the problem I have with thinking that that's what's going to happen, because while you were able to get Sutton and Durant, 2 NFL first-round talent kids, to play their best game of the season, the problem was, or still is maybe, is that where has that been all season? Okay, these kids, a big part of the reason why this team has struggled, you could point at those 2 kids, because that was what fans expected every week. So how do I know that just because they did it 1 week, when an undefeated team came to Happy Valley and they were a big dog with nothing to lose, us against the world, how do we know that they're just going to turn it back on again? Because they did lose the game, and they are playing for nothing. So, of course, as a scout, you'd love to see them pick up where they left off. And if they do, then, hey, they should definitely beat Michigan State. Even though it's a big number, because Penn State has not really handled the season very well, both teams have lost 6 straight games. Both teams started the season 3-0, and both teams are now 3-6. So I'll take Michigan State in the game. I don't know if I'll take the money line, but I'm not throwing it out as a possibility. Keep in mind that remember we talked about the backup for Michigan State. What's his name? He's got a funny name to remember. That they finally gave him a shot to start last week, and he did pretty well. The kid Milojevic. Alicio Milojevic. Anyway, he had a good game. and they were tied by Minnesota late, went to overtime and lost. It really looked like they were going to beat Minnesota last week with this kid starting. So now he's at home. Michigan State, look, they have an actual chance to go bowling, because if they can pull off this upset, their last game of the season is against Maryland, so we know they can beat Maryland. And then they would have to pull off one big upset, and that's at Iowa. But if they can win this game and have 2 good games in a row with the young quarterback, then anything's possible, because we know Iowa doesn't blow anybody out anyway. So it'd probably be a 4-quarter game. So anyway, I think Michigan State is not a bad play. I just don't trust Penn State. Let's see. Smarty says lousy weather last week in Iowa. Neither team could throw the ball. Well, Iowa can't throw the ball anyway. And again, don't forget, Oregon had their 2 best receivers out, tight end and receiver. Okay, Maryland and Illinois. So this is a 15-point game, up from 14. And I still think I'll take Illinois. They have been very good at home. They have outgained all 5 of their opponents at home, including Ohio State. Don't forget that. Maryland, meanwhile, has been outgained in the last 5 they've played. They started out, they're just like Michigan State, Penn State. They started out 4-0. They are now 4-5. And Illinois, even though they're not playing for anything, because they're not, but I still think they're in a much better position. Maryland's playing for a bowl, and they need this one, because they got Michigan and Michigan State. So Michigan State is, again, as I said before, that's a winnable game, but they're going to have to pull off a big upset against Illinois or Michigan to get it done. That's not going to happen more than likely. Yeah, I don't know about their coaching situation. I honestly think that they should move on. I think they really need to, if they want, depends on what they want to do there at Maryland. And I don't know what kind of aspirations the university has of being anything big time with football. So they probably won't. They'll probably stay status quo. Okay. And then Washington, the embarrassing Washington Huskies, who could not beat a depleted offensive team. You know how bad it was? You know how absolutely embarrassing it was for Washington. Wisconsin had a bunch of injuries on offense and some on defense, and they were already a bad team. Their quarterbacks, they played 4 quarterbacks last week. 4. And they went a combined 6 of 18 for 48 yards with a 2.7 yards completion average. And Washington lost to that team last week. Not win and not cover, which would have been embarrassing already. They lost to that team. That Washington team can't beat anybody on the road except Maryland. Even remember, they were down big in that game and had to come back to win that game. So this is a big spread. Look, I don't know how Washington is going to respond. Maybe this is an upset possibility, because Purdue season's been over for a long time. You know, they just played a gutsy game a couple of weeks ago against Michigan. Got blown out last week by Ohio State. But how about this? Purdue is 14-1-1 against the spread in a Big Ten road game as a dog of 6 or more when they come off a loss by double digits. So that's pretty big, 14-1-1. Washington will go to UCLA and then end their season at home against Oregon. And they could end up as playing spoilers if Oregon needs that game. So that could be a good one. But I'm serious. I might actually take this game, because even though I expect Washington to play like they've played all season, they don't play good on the road, and they play like they're one of the best teams in the Big Ten at home. So I can see that being the case. But look, it's not their home finale. There's nothing else. The loss last week, I said, is so embarrassing. Their season's over. There's nothing to play for kind of role they're in now. And so why not have Purdue come in there and shock them? So I don't think it's going to happen, but strategy wise, maybe I'll throw Purdue in there at 6-1. All right, UCLA and Ohio State. That's it. By the way, Ohio State's 3-0-1 at home this year against the spread. UCLA's got to win their next 3 for bowl eligibility, but that's not happening. They'll host Washington next week and at USC. Even if they win those games, it's not happening because they're not beating Ohio State. Okay, let's go to the ACC. And let's pop up the standings. No, I don't want that. I want that. Okay. So, all of these teams are in it. That's a lot of teams. 7 teams are in it. Anything can happen. Anything's possible. But hey, if you've got those 2 losses like Louisville and Miami, you're on life support, especially Miami because you've also lost to Louisville. If you're Miami, you did not want to see Louisville lose. You wanted to see you want to see other teams lose, not Louisville. So Miami is not in good position because they've also lost to SMU, of course. All right. So anyway. So you've got 5 teams with 1 loss, but you do have Duke and Virginia playing this week. All right. You've got Pitt and Virginia and Georgia Tech playing next week. All right. So these teams are going to take care of business against each other. And do I have? No, I don't have that. Okay. All right. So, yeah, who's SMU playing? SMU is playing. After the bye, they host Louisville. So Louisville, I think, will beat SMU there, and then at Cal. Yeah, I don't care that SMU found a way to beat Miami. I still don't believe in SMU. They're very lucky to win that game. They're not going to the championship game. Okay, so there you go. If I had to bet right now, who would make it? I am still taking Georgia Tech, and I'm going to say it's going to be Georgia Tech and Virginia, the 2 teams you see there at the top. Those are the teams I'm taking for the championship game. All right, so that's my prediction. Let's see if that happens. Let's take a look at the lines. Starting with the Friday night game, Louisville, just a 2-point favorite against Clemson. First dog roll for Clemson this season. It's their ACC finale. And you have a Louisville team. Don't forget, they're 0-5 now against the spread as a home favorite, even though this is the lowest number they've been all season. So maybe that'll help them out. They have never beaten Clemson at home. They're 0-4 all time. Let's see. So, yeah, as far as this game, look, it doesn't look like Brown's playing. I haven't seen any good news there that he's going to be able to play this week. So that's something you need to keep an eye on. Let me see if I notice anything. Let's see if I see an update. All right, they're making me go into the. So let's see. Do I see anything here? He might be out for a while, so he's not going to play. All right. So look, as I said before, that is a big deal. But now this is a much different situation. They're no longer expected to win. Now everybody's disappointed about it. Clemson coming off a big win against Florida State. They need 2 wins for bowl eligibility. They do get FCS in South Carolina to get to 6, so they're probably going to get there. But I like Louisville anyway. Like I said last week, I still think that they have a shot. I don't know about their shot now, but I'm still going to take Louisville. I don't like it a lot, but I'll take Louisville in this one. Okay. Now, this is going to be a really, really fun game because a few weeks ago, we erroneously thought that or pondered that if Notre Dame would just beat USC based on the rest of their schedule, they're in the playoffs. because there's no way they're going to lose any of the games on their schedule once the USC game's over. Well, then all of a sudden, Pitt comes out of nowhere thanks to true freshman quarterback Mason Heinschel. They have won 5 straight with Heinschel, straight up against the spread and in the stats. That's how good they've been playing. This line went from 10 to 12.5. So I think some of the people that lost money on that Arkansas game, probably the same people that made that line go from 10 to 12.5. Notre Dame has played Pittsburgh twice since 2020, and they beat them twice by a 103-10 margin. Historically, Notre Dame dominates the ACC as well. They are 18-3 against the spread in the last 21. 1-1 this year. Okay, they did lose one of those games against the spread. But it's definite for sure. If they beat Pitt, it's over. They're in the playoffs, it's over because they have Syracuse and Stanford next. So this is the last possible game that could hurt their chances. Pittsburgh's on a big roll. And there are some people, and I've mentioned this before, Desmond Reed, as great as Heinschel's played, Reed is really the top player for them. They need Reed. Reed is an electric player. I think he's going to be a fine pro. Even though he's a small guy, these guys have found a way to produce in the NFL nowadays. So I think he's going to do a real good job. An electric player. I think you'll find that out if you haven't seen it before on Saturday, noon start. Look, it should be a lot of fun. The atmosphere should be awesome. I don't know. I mean, I still like Notre Dame because if you look at it, Pittsburgh, even though they've done a really good job to put themselves in this position, they really haven't beaten anybody. You know, their best wins were Florida State and North Carolina State. Those are their best wins. So this is a major step up in class, major. And I think they deserve to be in the spot, no doubt. But yeah, this is now asking for a lot. I think if they keep this close or win the game, pull up the upset, it's not necessarily because Pittsburgh has now stepped up and become a serious, we're a contender now. We're a playoff contender. No, that's not the reason. I think it would be because Notre Dame isn't as good as everybody would have thought. But I don't think that's the case because I think they are as good as we think. I still like Notre Dame right now. I honestly am. It's possible I might pick them to win the championship. I mean, I put money on them about a month ago. I got decent odds on them to win the championship, so I do have them, and I still might pick them. I mean, I only have one question really, and that's Carr. So I just want to make sure. And look, their kicking game is terrible, so that could come back to haunt them. But they are definitely, because of the losses and the way they are, even if they get to the playoffs, people will say, well, yeah, but you lost a couple of the big games you played, even though they beat USC, but I don't think anybody will give them a lot of credit for that. So I think there'll be some people who might not believe that they're going to be capable of winning a national championship. And if that's the case, then good, because again, for me, it's going to be Carr. Like, for instance, show me on Saturday that, look, Love is playing at a high level. He is going to be a tremendous player at the next level. No doubt about that. But they need Carr to play well. They can't win with Love and a defense. They have to have Carr playing well. And the later in the season it goes, the more experience the kid gets. So I need to see Carr have like a 5-touchdown game on Saturday. And it's not like he hasn't had good games. He has. I'm just saying, if you want to win a national championship, you have to really start slinging it. I don't want to see you do it in the next 2 weeks against Syracuse and Stanford. Have like one more big game before the playoffs and show it to me here on Saturday. And I think he will. I think he'll have a really good game, and I'll take Notre Dame and give the points. Okay, Miami. This is their home finale. And don't forget, they're ending this season at Pitt. So I don't think that'll mean anything for Miami, but it could mean Pitt. Don't forget, this is not an ACC game for Pitt. So Pitt is still in good position. Even if they lose to Notre Dame, they have to rebound with that Georgia Tech matchup, and then they host Miami. So Pittsburgh will end their season as tough a schedule as any team in college football. I would say the toughest. I don't think any team in college football will be playing the three games, the three teams that Pitt will be playing: Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, and Miami. I mean, that is murderer's row to end the season. They're not that talented to sweep that. So, but hey, you know what? If you lose to Notre Dame, it's not the end of the world, because you still can, again, you don't have to sweep, but you can go 2-1. You could beat Georgia Tech and Miami. That's manageable. I still think it'll be Georgia Tech, but that's next week. We'll talk about that matchup next week. Okay, so yeah, home finale for Miami. NC State has lost their last three road games straight up and against the spread by a 134-74 margin. It is a pretty big number, and we know NC State's dangerous. Bailey, a quarterback, and all that kind of stuff. They need to win for bowl eligibility. I can't take Miami in this one, though, just because of the fact that I just can't trust them with a number this big and playing a team that's capable of putting up points like NC State. This is another big line game. Georgia Tech trying to rebound after their lone loss at NC State. And they have covered 8 straight after allowing 35 or more points, and covered 6 straight off of a double-digit straight-up road loss. So it's sort of like telling you that when they're coming off like a bad performance, basically, they've rebounded well. And I expect them to do that too. So I would take Georgia Tech and give the 16, but not a major game. This would be considered a major game. So as I told you, my prediction is Virginia and Georgia Tech. That means I'd expect Virginia to win this game, and I do. I was on the show the other day with Ken Thompson talking about this matchup. This was actually my pick on Monday, and at the time they were 6 and plus 180 on the money line. And I said at the time, I liked Virginia with that number. Go with the money line, because I was hearing news that it was looking more likely that Morris was going to start. And that's all I needed to hear to take advantage of that spread. Now, sure enough, the line has moved down to 4 now, because everybody's getting that kind of feeling. But I like the fact that it's still 4. So honestly, I think this line probably should be pick 'em, because Duke's defense is terrible. Duke can't stop anybody. And Chandler Morris, as long as he's healthy enough, just because he comes back doesn't mean he's going to. We just talked about what happened with Mateer. So we don't know what kind of health he's going to be in. But if he's healthy, and again, it was a head injury, so it's not like Mateer with the injured hand and all that stuff. I like Virginia here. I think it was probably a good thing in a way. You got rid of that loss. It's over with. It's done with. And the reason why I'm okay with it is, if I'm a Virginia guy, is because you didn't play your quarterback, your best player, for 3 quarters. Your backup, even though he did, what did the backup do? Daniel Kalen, 18 of 28, 145 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, ran for 49 yards, but he had 2 fumbles. And like Wake Forest did like nothing offensively, and yet they still won the game. They had the 2 turnovers. There was no Chandler Morris. So that's one way to look at it, is okay. And the other thing is, they had all these close wins that you were like, well, eventually you're going to lose. Well, they lost last week, but it's like, yeah, but I didn't have Morris in the game. So it's like, oh, you check that box off. So you did lose. So now it's like, okay, well, that narrative is no longer around. And I'd rather have that happen now than when you need it. Like, say, the last game of the season, if they were playing the Hokies, let's say, they got to win this game, or if they lose, they're out. So you can control your own destiny. Just take care of business, Virginia, and you'll be in the championship game, I believe. Again, I don't know the tiebreakers, but that's just what I believe. Virginia has also beaten Duke 8 out of their last 9, both straight up and against the spread. So I'm taking Virginia plus the 4. North Carolina. Oh boy, North Carolina. You really angered me last week. So they were one of my top picks. And you remember we liked them at Syracuse and we took advantage of that. And we told you why we liked them last week. And they get off to a 20-3 lead. And everything is going according to plan. The defense is shutting down Stanford like we thought, like they've been doing the last few weeks with their defense, Belichick's defense. And out of nowhere, after completely shutting down Stanford, and it's not like Stanford's a good team anyway, they allowed Stanford to score twice. Junk, crappy, meaningless twice touchdowns to not cover the spread. So I was, yes, very, very disappointed. But they won the game. And in their last 4, they're 2-2 straight up, 3-1 against the spread, with both of their losses by 4 points. So they're still in it for a bowl. If they can win this game, they'll be 1 away. And they're getting 6. It's 180 on the line. So now that's a much better position. I prefer this position because I didn't want to be in that position last week for that reason. I don't want them as a heavy favorite. I don't get anything out of it anyway. It's just a favorite role. But here, these are the roles I prefer. Now I get almost 2-1 on the line. Wake Forest won their game last week for bowl eligibility. They are not going to anywhere. This is it. Now we got another team that's not playing for anything except pride and rivalry and all that. Their offense has averaged 250 yards a game in the last 3. So their offense is just a nothing. And now you got a UNC defense that's just playing as good as they could play. So I'm definitely taking North Carolina again here, going with the upset. This one, look, I don't know what to think about Florida State. I don't think anybody knows. On the bright side, they've outgained 7 of 8 teams in the FBS this year. So we know the talent's there. It's just a matter of, well, are they going to show up? I guess the good thing is at least they seem to show up at home. So, and they're at home. It's the home finale, and they do need to win. They have to have a couple of wins to get to the bowl. I don't know whether they care about it now. Virginia Tech, they're not going to go bowling. You know, all Virginia Tech is really doing now is they're kind of hoping that Virginia game at the end of the season means something for their arch rivals. I'm not touching this game. Okay. Now let's get to the final Power 4 standings. Let's see. Let's go to Big 12. All right. So let's talk about, what are we doing here? All right, here we go. So let's talk about, what do we have? Three teams atop the standings. And those 3, now I'm not going to eliminate the 2 lost teams. So really we should go right here. All right. Because some of these teams are still playing each other. Texas Tech is, they're going to be in the championship game. So they're not playing anybody that's worth anything. So they're in. They're going to get there. They're fine. So it's really going to be BYU Cincinnati, and they play each other next week in Cincinnati. But hey, what if BYU gets upset this week? BYU upsets Cincinnati next week. And then here comes Arizona State, Houston, Utah. So that could definitely happen. This is the Big 12. So yeah, anything's possible. I think what's going to happen though, or at least what I'm going to call for is, I mean, at this point, I'm not going to go away from my sleeper pick. So I'm definitely going to stick with Cincinnati. And I'm going to say this. My prediction is going to be the BYU Cincinnati winner will play Texas Tech in the championship game. Okay. Oh, that's not it. Here we go. Okay. So let's start with this one. And it's a 6-point spread. It's the first ever meeting between these two teams. I was real disappointed with Arizona last week. They did not cover the spread against Kansas. That just shows you Lance Leipold is just a little bit better coach than what's his name? Brennan? Boy, I got a brain fart with a coach that I've actually been that I've actually respected. You know, he's done a really good job there. Where is he? Where's my boy? Brett Brennan. Yeah. So, yeah. And that's because, Kansas, Arizona, I just think was a better team. And they were at home. And they were very fortunate to come back and win that game. So now they're bowl eligible. Here we go again, right? So now they're bowl eligible. They're not going to the championship game. They do have that big game at the end of the season against their rivals at Arizona State. They got good games. Baylor also. So they got some good games to compete with, and they're going to go out there and try to win. I'm not saying they're giving up and they're just going to throw this away. But look, this is their first trip to the state of Ohio in 15 years. And if you look at even the last, let's just put it this way. It's been a long time since they've been on basically this far east. A long time. They did travel to Mississippi in 2023, but this far east and that means something to me. Same thing when we talk about teams that are not used to going far west. So yeah, I think this matters. It's also a 12 o'clock start, so it'll be morning for them. Cincinnati is coming off the loss. They had a bye. So, hey, all right, we lost. Let's get that out. Let's now focus on getting to the championship game. We got a week to prepare for this game. Arizona's coming off the big emotional win. I think it's a really good spot for Cincinnati minus the 6. I don't know what to – this is just unfortunate. I mean, injuries suck. I don't know what to tell you. I say it all the time. It's the one part of sports that I hate the most. You know, people talk about, I hate the cheating scandals, and there's other things to hate. There's nothing that I can't stand more than injuries. I hate it. It drives me insane, and it's happened to my teams just too many times over my lifetime, and it just drives me nuts. I'm going through it right now this season. Of course, I've experienced it with Rutgers. I mean, their injuries, I've just been, again, for a second straight season. And same thing with Michigan. You know, there was some major injuries along the offensive line that's really killed them. Hockey, my hockey team, no team has been more injured this year than my hockey team in Vancouver. And I hate it. So that's what Arizona State, unfortunately, is dealing with right now. Their fans, there was still a big hope after their upset over Texas Tech that they were going to have a great rest of the season. And then their exciting quarterback is injured and out for the year. So they got to turn to Jeff Sims, and he puts together a 228-yard rushing performance against Iowa State in their upset win. But that's all he's going to do. The good thing for Arizona State fans is they have a weak schedule. They will play Colorado next week, and then they've got Arizona as their toughest team, but they get them at home. So Arizona State does have a shot, but it's still Jeff Sims, and I don't trust. I know Dillingham is a really good coach, and boy, that would really put a feather on his cap if they can get to the championship game with Jeff Sims. But look, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to take West Virginia, but I am thinking about it as an upset because I just don't trust Jeff Sims. I think if he's your quarterback, then you're vulnerable. West Virginia is also playing their best football of the year. As you remember, that was one of our top picks last week. We did come through there with the win and cover over Colorado. I was hoping it wasn't as close as it was, though, but a win's a win. And in their last 3 games, West Virginia is 2-1 straight up, 3-0 against the spread, with their only loss against TCU by just 6 points. And they are 2-1 in the stats within those 3 games. And the only time they lost, they were 1 yard lost against TCU. So that's how much better they're playing. They found their young quarterback in Scotty Fox. He's not perfect. He's a young kid, but at least they've got a kid to develop. and he could have a good game here or there. So, So look, West Virginia's got 2 more games left for bowl eligibility. This one, and then Texas Tech. So it ain't happening. But hey, maybe they could at least give them a shot because the Texas Tech game's at home. So maybe they could at least give their fans something to root for if they can upset Arizona State in a few weeks. I think it's definitely worth taking the chance, and I might do it. I might take West Virginia and the 3:30. There's the Texas Tech matchup. Utah still has a chance for the championship. They've got they have the 2 losses, of course, both to BYU and Texas Tech, unfortunately. So that's the problem. But they can find a way to, get the tiebreaker system working for them. Then that could definitely be what gets them over the top. So this is a big game. The line down from 9 to 7. I kind of like Baylor in this one. I think the spread's a little bit too high. Look, I've said it before. Utah is definitely a well-deserved, solid home team. They just really, no matter what happens, you get to that place, especially late on a Saturday night, and it's something you just have to be there. It's a very tough place to play. And they have done damage this season in that role. But on the road, they're vulnerable enough. They're still a solid team. They're a good team. But Baylor, don't forget, Baylor had a lot of the people who thought they could win the championship this year. And it didn't work out for them. But they're still a 5-4 team. They need a win for bowl eligibility. And they're playing 3 good teams in the next 3 games. So they're not going to the championship game. But it's a big game. They are playing a really good team at home. They are the dog, so I expect their best effort. They have played the last 2 years, these 2 teams have. Utah's beaten them both times. Baylor has covered both times, and it's only been by a 43-25 margin, so they've been relatively low scoring. So I'll take Baylor and the 8 points. I'm not sure I'll take the money line. But I think the 8 points, I think it's worth it. And look, Baylor, I don't know, maybe I will take the money line. I'll have to think about it. If I do, I'll let you know. But the fact is that they just need a win. They need like a big win this season. They haven't had any. I mean, they had a nice win, nice late win against Kansas State. Now it was nice, but it wasn't Utah. 13th ranked Utah. That's what I mean. They haven't had one of those wins this season. And then the last one is BYU 4 over TCU. So TCU has a chance to spoil BYU, and that could happen. BYU is going to have to respond after their first loss of the season, and it was a loss where their offense just couldn't do anything. They were overmatched, and that was not a good matchup for BYU, as it turns out. Last time these 2 teams met, back in 2023, TCU blew out BYU 44-11. So BYU has a little revenge here. TCU, this has not been a good spot for them. 2-14 ATS, last 16 in the first of back-to-back road games. 2-14. They were a road dog just once this year, the only time all season, and that was at Arizona State. They lost that game both straight up and against the spread. They're coming off a really bad loss to Iowa State. Looked like they were going to win that game. Iowa State scores, and then they get a punt return touchdown. Right after it was touchdown, TCU, a few plays, they punt, touchdown, and they lose. So that's the bad loss for TCU. Knocks them out of the Big 12 race. So I wonder how they'll react this week after being knocked out. That's a bad feeling, and I think it's a good spot for BYU. So I'm taking BYU minus the 4 to kind of get back on track. Okay, that is the Power 4. Let's now get into the Group of 5. So let's check out the standings in the American. Here we go. All right. So here are the teams battling it out for the American Championship, which could be for the group of 5 invite into the playoffs. It won't be Boise, so it's wide open now. And here you see again our South Florida Bulls. The 2 teams at the top are playing each other this week. And then you've got Tulane coming off the big win. North Texas is right now in the race. And the 2 teams on the bottom there are playing each other as well. So you got 6 teams here, and 4 of the 6 are playing each other. So let's get into it. Okay. Oh, and my prediction, I mean, big surprise, right? I've had South Florida all season. So who are they going to play, though? I'm going, I mean, schedule-wise, it really does say North Texas is in much better position schedule-wise. Actually, Tulane, they're both in good positions, you know, and we talked about this last week. So both of these teams, their schedules are really easy, and you would think that they'll be in good shape, and that we could have a 4-team tiebreaker. So, and look, I don't know what the tiebreaker is. I mean, for all I know, the tiebreaker will hurt South Florida. I don't know. So we'll see. I mean, I hope the tiebreaker is whoever is ranked highest. Imagine if it's not, and South Florida is ranked, I don't know, 20th in the country, and there's no other American teams in the top 25, and South Florida doesn't even get to go to the championship game of the AAC. How crazy would that be? Okay, so let's get started with South Florida and Navy. Early start. 10 is a big enough number on the road against a good Navy team. And keep in mind, their star quarterback did not play last week against Notre Dame, and I think that was definitely planned. I mean, the kid was banged up, and they were not going to put him in that game against a much more powerful physical team when that game meant nothing to them except pride. This is the game that matters. The rest of the season matters. The Army game matters. So they got to get Horvath healthy. So I would expect him to play. I haven't heard anything yet. I will say if Blake Horvath doesn't play, then I would be really all over South Florida in this game. So let me see if I've got an update. What do we got here? Yeah, it looks like he's going to play. I'm not seeing anything here that says he's not going to play. So wait a second. Let me make sure. Let's see. So I know he didn't play. What the hell is the Economic Times? Let's see if I see anything here. Yeah, I don't see anything. Yeah, he'll probably be back. I expect Horvath to return this week. Okay, so take a look, follow that though for sure. Anyway, Navy is 0-2, straight up and against the spread as a dog this year, and it happened in their last 2 games, back-to-back losses after starting 7-0, and they lost both of those games by an 80-27 margin. So that's what happens when you step up a competition. This is all predictable. We've talked about it all season. Now, the one advantage is both of those were on the road. This is at home, but it's also as good as it gets in the AAC. So, yeah, I'm a little bit bothered by the 10. Navy's a gutsy team. They're all going to play the little whistle at the end, and I could see Florida comfortably up in the fourth quarter, and they could give up a late score and lose the 10. So it's nothing that I'm like ultra excited about. I definitely was on UCF a lot better last week. All right. Next up, Oregon State lost to Sam Houston. That's embarrassing. All right, here we go. North Texas, 18. Now this game, look, UAB had their upset. They beat Memphis a couple of weeks ago. That was a huge, huge upset. I get it. But I still think that this could be dangerous for North Texas. So I wouldn't, if I'm taking this game, I'm taking the UAB side of things because North Texas is coming off a bye. And, they had their big win against Navy. They're 3-0 straight up ATS and in the stats in their last 3. So everything is going, it couldn't go any better right now for North Texas. Matter of fact, even the quarterback, Mestamaker, who we've mentioned on this program many times, was interviewed by Rich Eisen. So that's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of distractions happening, a lot of, hey, look how good we are. And then you got this UAB team sitting there, and this is all they're playing for. They're playing for these types of moments, and they're at home, and this is what it is. And if they can, and I know the quarterback got hurt at Memphis, I get that. So it's a big difference in having Mestamaker in the whole game against them. But it's still, if you beat Memphis at home, that means you have the capability of doing it. So I would, and UAB, if you look at it, in their last 3 games, all with their interim coach, Mortensen, who I think is going to get the job. I think he's going to get it. And I'll tell you right now, if he wins this game, he's definitely getting it. So since he's taken over, they're 1-2 straight up. And in that time, they have a 7-point loss at Rice. They're 2-1 again in the stats. And they would have been 3-0 in the stats under Mortensen, but they were -2 yards with Connecticut. So that's how close UAB has been since taking over to be 3-0 in the stats. All right. So, yeah, I think any team that can beat Memphis at home can beat North Texas at home if everything goes their way. And maybe this is the perfect week to take advantage of North Texas off the bye. And like I said, maybe some outside distractions. But it's a gamble. It's definitely one of those that wouldn't be on the top of my list if I go down that route as a double-digit upset. But it's definitely one that I think might even be worth it. Why not? Put them in the list. All right. Here we go with the big one, Memphis and East Carolina. The line has moved up to 3, and I'm glad because I'm taking Memphis. So you got a Memphis team that is 2-0 straight up as a dog this year. So they've won both of their games as dogs as a dog roll. And check this out for East Carolina. They've lost 9 straight when they take on an opponent with a winning record since 2023. That's it. They've lost 9 straight, basically, versus winning teams since 2023. 0-2 this year. So who have they lost to? Well, they lost to NC State by 7, BYU by 21, Tulane by 7. What was their best win? Army at the time. Army. So they have not, look, I have been very positive about East Carolina since their head coaching change, since Blake Harrell's taken over. We talked about this in the preseason, and we talked about it this season, that ever since he took over, they had a good run at the end of the last season. But this season, even though you're keeping an eye on them and they win, sort of like, look, they're 7-2, they're 6-3, and they're winning 2 out of every 3. But the problem is they're winning 2 easy ones, and then they'll lose a tough one. 2 easy ones, tough one, 2 easy one, tough one. That's what they've done this season, with the one exception of Army. So they haven't yet won the big one, even though I wouldn't really call this that. It's still as close as they'll be to that big one. And look, hey, until they do it, right? I'm taking Memphis. Memphis is proven. They've had a very strong season. The quarterback is, look, even though they lost to Tulane last, so what? I mean, what were they going to do? Win every game this season? No. So they lost to a good team. Again, Memphis, Tulane, possible North Texas. I'm not going to put them in there totally, but possible North Texas and South Florida. I mean, these teams are, they're pretty close to each other, and they're going to play each other, and they're going to beat each other. And that's what happened to Memphis against Tulane. And even though Tulane had a big lead, and Memphis came back, and they had the ball at the end of the game with a chance to win it, and they just couldn't complete it. But they were ballsy, gutsy, and they were there, and it was a really impressive loss to me in the manner in which they really hung in there. So, look, I just think Memphis is a better team in East Carolina. I think Carroll's got East Carolina headed in the right direction. He's the right guy there. They got Hauser, who's a quality quarterback. I just think Memphis is better, and I'm getting points in this situation as well. So I'm taking Memphis in the 3. FAU has yet to prove that they're capable of winning one of these games yet this season. We thought earlier in the year that they had it in them, and they didn't. They have played 4 tough teams this year on their schedule: Maryland, Memphis, South Florida, Navy, and they lost to them by a 184-85 margin. So when they step up in competition this year, they've laid egg after egg. They are 1-15. Now check this out: 1-15 against the spread after they score 35 or more. 0-2 in that role this year. But on the other side, with Tulane, they are 2-13 against the spread off of a straight-up road dog victory, like they had last week at Memphis. It's homecoming for Tulane. I'm siding with Tulane. I don't think there's any chance after they pulled off that upset last week that they're going to squander it this week. So, look, I don't think it's a cakewalk start to finish. Don't even worry about FAU because they got a young coach, and he's developing the team, and it's later in the season, so you never know. Anything is possible. It's not like Tulane hasn't shown vulnerability at several times this season. But being that it's homecoming and after last week's win, I would expect them to put in their best effort, and I think that's what it'll take to cover the game. All right, so that's the AAC. Let's go to the Mountain West. And, excuse me. Wait, what did I just do? No, don't do that. All right, there you go. So let me pop that back up. All right. Let me get to the Mountain West standings for you. And here we go. So all of these teams have a chance for the championship. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 7 teams. And screw San Jose State. I put money at 33-1 on San Jose State last week, and they lost to Air Force. And why did they lose to Air Force? Well, it wasn't because they got outplayed, because they didn't, because they turned the ball over. That'll do it every time. So before we get to the San Jose State game, we'll start with Air Force. They're not even in here. But before we do that, look, you've got San Diego State, Boise playing each other this week, so that's monster. And you have, let's see, you also have Utah State. Yes, Utah State and UNLV playing each other too. So we have, out of the 7, you've got 4 of the 7 playing each other this week. And they'll be playing each other again over the next couple of weeks. That's why all these teams have a shot. Everybody's involved. And, of course, the big one is, no question, San Diego State, Boise State. But before we get to that game, we are going to talk about Air Force and UConn. And UConn came off the big win against Duke. And how about this? Head coach Jim Mora is 7-1 against the spread as a pick or favorite after his team pulls off an upset. And that's the role they're in here, 7-point favorite against Air Force. But I'm taking Air Force. I think this is a pretty decent dog roll, money line. I'll go for that. They need 3 wins for bowl eligibility, and they are playing 3 teams they're capable of beating. So they have a shot. They are 1-2 straight up, 3-0 against the spread as a road dog this year, and both of their losses were by 3 points each against Navy and UNLV. So obviously, every time I take a money line play on a game like this, I definitely like the points. So I definitely take the 7, but I'm going to go ahead and take that money line play as well. And on top of it, Air Force has covered 7 straight as a dog of more than 3 points when they come off a double-digit straight-up win, as they did last week. I'm taking New Mexico against Colorado State. The Lobos, what a great season they've had. And we've mentioned them several times on this program before. And I'm gonna ride them. In the last 3-0 straight up, 2-1 against the spread, 3-0 in the stats. They're playing their best football of the year. And they've got motivation here. 2 reasons. 1, they're in the race. 2, they want to prevent a 14th consecutive loss to Colorado State. And that should be good enough reason for many revenge opportunities lost before. Also, Colorado State fired Mike Norvell. Not a surprise. We saw that coming. I remember I said it just about the time that he got fired, that this is a program that deserves greatness at this level. This is a program that should be where Boise State is. And they need to find someone that can get them there. But since they fired Norvell, they're 0-2 straight up and against the spread by a 70-10 margin. So they're not playing good at all. And now they're going to go on the road and play a team that has major implications. Well, they have nothing to play for. So, yeah, I would take New Mexico and give the 14, and I'm sure they just want to, really give it to that Ram team that's embarrassed them for quite a long time. San Jose State, again, what a terrible loss. You picked the wrong time but then again, that's the kind of season it's been to San Jose State. They're a much better team than a 3-6 team, but when you play sloppy football and you just give games away, this is what happens. And they did it again. So this is now tricky because Nevada was one of those teams. I don't know if they were a double digit. Were they a double digit last week? Because we had Nevada last week and they got destroyed. And we get embarrassed every week when we pick our upsets, our double digit upsets, because that's what you're doing when you're picking double digit upsets. You're playing teams that are big dogs for a reason. And so we've gotten embarrassed plenty of times. But the object of that, as I said, is it's a numbers game. But I think maybe this is the week because San Jose State now is done. That's it. But they are playing for something because they have to win 3 for bowl eligibility. But their last 2 games are going to be tough against San Diego State and Fresno. So I don't think they're going to get there now. Nevada, meanwhile, not a good spot for them. They're 1-7-2 against the spread with home revenge. 0-1 in that role this year. It's been a bad year for Nevada, but they still play pretty tough for their coach. Not last week, or at least the results. So I would expect that they'll come back this week. That's how they played under their coach, Choate. I would expect it'd be at least a cover, I would expect. Utah State and UNLV. By the way, I'm not taking the game. I'm just saying if I was taking the game, I'd probably take Nevada. Utah State and UNLV. And it's a big game. Both teams have a shot for the championship. Utah State coming off. They were the team that blitzed Nevada last week. Again, Mendenhall's done a good job there. This is a good Utah State team. So it had more to do with Nevada than it did Utah State. Okay. Same reason why I would take them again this week. I just think at some point this year, Nevada's going to pull off an upset. But it's about picking the right spot. And we've had no luck with them this year, picking that spot. I don't even know if they'll pull off the upset that we're saying that they should get. But all right, Utah State, 2-1 against the spread as a road dog this year. Okay, even though they've lost all 3. UNLV 1-1 straight up, 0-2 against the spread as a home favorite. So it's 6 points now, up from 4. I'm kind of surprised by that. I'm taking Utah State. Again, I like what Mendenhall's doing there. I like Barnes, the quarterback. Look, Calandra's a good quarterback too. I expect this is going to be a high-scoring game. Look, hence the 70 on the total. So I expect this to be a wild affair at UNLV. And therefore, I think it's going to be one of those four-quarter, down to the last possession games. And that's why I'll take the dog in those rolls anytime, especially when I'm getting 2-1 on the money line. And here we go with the best, not last, but the best anyway. And this is San Diego State 3 over Boise. So what to expect from Boise, because nobody knows. Madsen's out. So sophomore Max Cutforth will be starting for the Broncos. And this is a good trend here. They've covered 6 straight after a loss as a favorite. So it shows you that Boise State does respond after getting upset. But San Diego State has actually done pretty well in this role recently as a home team against Boise. They've covered their last 2, winning one of them, both as dogs. And they're also 2-0 straight up ATS as a home favorite this year by a 69-31 margin. But I just don't know what to expect. Tano Latuli out for the year, their star linebacker. And the first game they were without Latuli, they were a no-show. I'm going to point that not to Latuli because it's not the reason that I went with Hawaii last week. It was just because I think they were due. And so now that they've lost, I think get that out of the way and start getting back on track. And because Madsen's not around, I expect they're going to do that. So I still think San Diego's the pick. I wouldn't be like, look, I don't know what to expect from San Diego State, whether or not this is going to be an easy win. And I only say that because, look, Boise lost their last game when Madsen went out early. They lost to Fresno 30-3 or something. And we've seen San Diego State blow out teams this year with their defense. So it's possible. I don't know. That's what I don't know. But I feel confident that the San Diego State season, which has been very special for them so far, I'm not going to say it's going to just disappear right away. Like in 2 weeks, it's over. So I'm going to take San Diego State and give the 3. Not a lot to give up. No Madsen, who by the way, is their best player. Okay. Wyoming and Fresno. And this line is now down to 3. I'm a little bit surprised. Fresno coming off that blowout win against Boise. But Wyoming's, hanging in there. They've outgained 4 of 5 Mountain West opponents. And they're sitting there with just 2 more wins they need for bowl eligibility. Fresno's already bowl eligible, but Fresno's trying to win a championship. So this is a monster game for Fresno. Both teams, I think will be involved in this one. Wyoming will have to also, they're going to either have to beat Fresno or Hawaii and then beat Nevada for the bowl deal. So this one might be easier, but either way, they're going to have to win a road game, tough road game. I don't know if they're going to be able to do that. Honestly, I think this is their best chance, but I'm still taking Fresno. I'd kind of be surprised if Fresno lost after such a big win. Now, keep in mind, they weren't, even though they blew out Boise in that game, that was one of those overrated scores. Fresno didn't have like anything. They didn't have it. It wasn't like their offense was humming. Let's just put it that way. So it was a very misleading score. But look, I think they've had a fine year under their new head coach, and I think they'll pull out this game that they need. So that is the Mountain West. Now, let's go to the Sun Belt. And we're still going to do the NFL. Don't forget that when we're all done here. Okay. So here we go. All right. So look, same thing from last week. You've got, if James Madison and Coastal win their next few games, they play each other the last game of the season for the title. And since Arkansas State lost to Southern Miss, if both of these teams win out, they will play each other in the last game of the season for the title. So I think that would be nice if it happened, and it's pretty simple. But Troy loses this week, Southern Miss looks like they're in really good shape. But Southern Miss may have a problem this week as well. So let's get into the games because things could open up a little because of Arkansas State might not even be out of this thing, even though because they have the win over Troy. But I don't know. We'll see. All right, so let's take a look. Old Dominion, 12.5 now. That keeps getting higher, and I'm going to take Troy. So I hope it keeps getting higher. Troy had that really big win streak, snapped in their loss to Arkansas State. But look, it's just a bad game, didn't work out. It happens. You move on. You're coming off a bye now, and you got to recharge yourself. And now you got this big game coming up because you got Georgia State next week. That would be a win. And then you go to Southern Miss for the chance to go to the championship game. So this is the game, though. You got to get this game. It's not going to be easy for Troy to beat Old Dominion and Southern Miss on the road. That's going to be really hard. I'm not sure they could be able to pull that off. But this has not been a bad spot for them. They're 2-1 straight up, 3-0 against the spread as a road dog this year. The only loss was Clemson by 11. So we knew early on, and that was where I detected that this Troy team could be an interesting team. They lose their starting quarterback. The backup comes in, takes him a few weeks, and he takes off. He had his worst game in the last game in their loss to Arkansas State, though. But again, it's going to happen. Old Dominion, 1-8 against the spread since 2022 as a home favorite. So this is a role they are not good at. They are 1-2 this year in that role, so they do have a win, but 1-2. That follows the trend of not covering as a home favorite. So I'm taking Troy, and I'll probably roll with them on the money line. So that's probably the way I'll go. This will be another one of my double-digit plays. Marshall, Georgia State. And Marshall, they've got to get a couple of wins for bowl eligibility. I expect this will be one of those wins. And they're taking on a Georgia State team that's just having a bad year. They've lost 8 out of 9. And check this out. They're 1-7 against the spread. And in all 8 losses, actually, okay, which is very important for the spread here. But in all 8 losses this year, they have been by 7 or more points. All 8 of them. Okay? And here you've got Marshall at 7. So you're in a good spot. Hey, if you want, just to be sure, make sure that's 7. And there you go. So, yeah, unless Georgia State wins the game, if they lose this one, chances are they'll lose it by more than 7. James Madison should have no problem with App State. And here's the Southern Miss game. So, yeah, the line was down from 6. And, you know, I'm not surprised because Texas State has been a very respectable team in the Sun Belt under G.J. Kinney. But they've had a very disappointing season. They have lost 5 straight games, okay, straight up and against the spread. 4 of the 5 losses have been by a total of 14 points, though. So they've lost a lot of close games, overtime as well. They had the one blowout to James Madison. You know, that's not anything to be ashamed about. Looking at the schedule, though, they have 2 winnable games after this. So they've got to win this game to put themselves in a position to go to a bowl. This is a big game for them as well. And Southern Miss, look, they could lose this game and still be okay. I'm not saying they're gonna or they don't care about the game, but just keep that in mind. They lose this game, and let's say Troy loses to Old Dominion. Well, now we're kind of back where we started from. And now Troy has still got a shot. So, yeah, you got to keep that in mind. And I don't know. I'm thinking that it's possible. Texas State, they've had it rough. And I just wonder if they've got one in them, especially when they're a dog. So I'm actually thinking maybe Texas State might be a pretty decent play here. But the problem I have with it is last year, Texas State beat a terrible Southern Miss team 58-3. Do you think the program might have something for Texas State in this one? I don't know. So, yeah, I wouldn't look. Let's put it this way: I wouldn't put money on Texas State, really, not much at all, because they've lost games. They lose games. They lose spreads. They're just not they're 2-6 against the spread. Southern Miss is 5-1 against the spread. It really does make more sense to take Southern Miss. And I think that's it. Oh, that's right. There's one more. And it's a big one. Georgia Southern against Coastal. And Georgia Southern, we had them last week in their upset against App State. So that's good. That's actually worked in the favor of Coastal, though. Check this out. They've covered 9 straight when they take on a team off of an upset win. Okay. Check this out, too. Coastal has covered 7 straight when they have revenge following a double-digit straight-up win when they take on an opponent with a win percentage of 300 or better. Also, you have a team that is playing their best ball of the year. They've won 4 straight up and against the spread, thanks to quarterback Samari Collier. The junior quarterback got inserted into the lineup when all looked lost. Remember, we talked about this all season. Beck was going to get fired, and things did not look good at all. And then all of a sudden, Samari Collier comes in, and they can't lose. The kid is their 3rd string quarterback, and he's won 4 straight. So he is directly responsible for this winning streak. Last week against Georgia State, he had 120 passing, 3 touchdowns, and 123 rushing and a touchdown. So he's on fire. They've already had 2 upset wins this year. The Chanticleers of 10 and 16 points. This is just 2. Next week, they play South Carolina, which will mean nothing. But then the week after that, they've got James Madison at home. And as we've said before, that would be for the division title, as long as they don't lose. So this is it. They don't have to win next week. They got to win this week. And I think they will. Even though I like Georgia Southern, I think that, look, they need a couple of wins for bowl eligibility. I don't know about their chances. They got a shot if they win this game, because they get Old Dominion at home and Marshall on the road. And if they win this one, I think they'll win one of those 2 and be bowling. And as we said when we took them last week to pull off the upset, it's because they were supposed to be a better team. Things didn't work out, but there was still talent there. They proved it last week. But this is another step up in competition, because Coastal's been playing better than App State. And I'm going to go take the Chanticleers in this one. Georgia Southern, though, 2-0, straight up and against the spread as a home favorite, and 7-0-2 against the spread at home when they take on teams with a 500 or better record. How about that? So some trends that are working for both sides here. And if you want to just take all the trends out, I'm taking Coastal anyway. Let's talk Conference USA, and then we'll wrap up with the MAC. Okay. So here we go. I'm taking Missouri State here. It's homecoming for the Bears. And this has been a really good season for them. Ryan Beard, their 3rd-year head coach, is really doing a good job. He built them up the last couple of years to get to the FBS. They're having a strong season. They've won 4 straight, covered 3 out of 4. They upset Liberty last week with 27 seconds left in the game. They've got an experienced quarterback, Jacob Clark, and that helps obviously big time. And taking a look at the Conference USA, let's pop up the standings there. Okay. So as you can see here, these are the teams. But I would actually say right here. So you got 4 teams that really have the shot, the best chance, with the 2 top teams undefeated playing this week. And you got Missouri State, good situation. And they are going to play, check this out, Kennesaw State next Western Kentucky, excuse me, and then Louisiana Tech after that. Louisiana Tech down here, disappointing season so far for them. But Western still has a shot as well. But as far as Missouri State, look, they've had a really strong season for a first-time FBS team. They beat Marshall early this year from a better Sun Belt conference. Again, they just beat Liberty, the preseason favorites. And they're taking on a UTEP team that has 2 wins this year. They're also just 2-5-1 ATS. Their only wins this year against FCS and Sam Houston, who was winless until they upset Oregon State last week as a 20-point dog. So Missouri State is the play. I think you should be very happy that you're only giving 4, and it's homecoming too to Missouri State. All right. Where are we? Moving on. Conference USA. Kennesaw State, 3-point favorite on the road against Jacksonville State. And this is it. First place teams, both undefeated, playing each other. This is what you want to see. But Kennesaw State, even though the last couple of games did not cover, they had a push and won. So you kind of see when you're hot, you win and then all of a sudden those games, you start to wonder, are they kind of on the verge? But I think that this is such a big game. This is like the biggest game of the year. And I think they played the best. They played the best this season, and I think they'll prove it. This is not going to be easy, though, because Jacksonville State is the defending champs. Because Rich Rod left, but so far, Charles Kelly has done a good job taking over. Jacksonville State, 11-3 against the spread at home since the 2023 introduction into the FBS. So they've been very strong in this spot at home. Kennesaw State's won 7 straight. Jacksonville State's won 4 straight. The line's now up to 3, I think. Where is it? Actually, let's. I'm looking at the standings here. Let me get to that. There we go. And there you go. It's a 3-point spread. So, yeah, I'm just taking the team that I think is the best team right now in the conference, and that's Kennesaw State. And who knows? We might see these 2 teams in the championship game again. Elijah Hill is a freshman leading the team in sacks. And that shows you why, this has been a different season for the team. Last year, they were just awful. Okay. And Louisiana Tech, talking about them, they've had a disappointing season. They still got to get a win to be bowl eligible. They've covered 8 straight off of a straight-up favorite loss when they take on a non-conference team. And you've got to check out highlights of the Delaware-Louisiana Tech game last week. It was crazy. Nuts. Delaware went into the fourth quarter with the lead and then found themselves down 8 late. And then they got a touchdown, missed a 2-point conversion, but they got the onside kick. And they get the ball, kick the long field goal, win the game. Crazy. Up and back in the fourth quarter was amazing. Big win for Delaware. Terrible loss for Louisiana Tech. This is only the second time Louisiana Tech's been a dog all year. Again, that's what I'm saying. It's been a disappointing season for them at 5-4. That was LSU. They were a 36-point dog. You know what? They lost only by 16. So this is a pretty good Louisiana Tech team. I was kind of surprised the line went up to 8.5 when it started at 6, because Washington State was a big disappointment in the game against Oregon State. Big disappointment. But they had a bye week, and they got to regroup. They've got to win a couple more games. And you look at it, they will be playing James Madison next week, and then non-conference game. And then they go and take on Oregon State in a rematch, which they'll win. So they got to get one more win, and this is the one you want to take advantage of. You don't want to have to beat James Madison. So I expect they'll beat Louisiana Tech. I'm not going to mess with the points here, though, in this one, especially since Washington State is just 1-6 against the spread off of a straight-up favored loss when they take on a winning team. So very similar to the trend that is in the favorite role in a positive respect for Louisiana Tech. Okay, so that is going to round out the action. Okay, now we're going to take a look at let's take a look here at the MAC because there are games going on actually. Or do I actually, you know what? I don't want to surprise myself with the scores. So let me just go to the standings. Then again, I think they might even be, the game will probably be updated. So I don't want to surprise myself because I want to see these games because there were games that might even be over now. You have Toledo at Miami, Buffalo at Central Michigan. I actually took Miami and Buffalo in those games. Remember last week we told you that we were going to take Buffalo if they were a dog because they're much better in that role this year. And Miami, we were going to take because Toledo, they're coming into this week, Toledo 0-4 straight up on the road this year. They haven't won a road game all year. And they were a 3-point road favorite. They lost 3 games this year, including 2 as a favorite by 13 and 11. So anyway, we're going to get really into this next week, even though there might be Tuesday games because we already had games yesterday. You had Kent State. You got our Golden Flashes coming through for us with the overtime win against Akron. So Mark Carney has Kent State at 4-6, and they're going to be hosting Central Michigan and at Northern Illinois, 2 teams they could beat to go bowl eligible. Wouldn't that be exciting? Now, Drew DeShields is only a redshirt freshman, but he's looking really good for Kent State. And I tell you what, they might have a hard time holding on to him. I could see a lower level Power 4 team, or maybe like an American team or a Mountain West team getting them to come on over. I think it's going to be hard to keep the Shields at Kent State. So anyway, good for Kent State. But the big one was Western Michigan pulling up the win against Ohio. Our Broncos coming through. So that makes things a lot more that just makes things a lot more definitive for Western Michigan now to get it done in the MAC. So anyway, there you go. That was yesterday. You know what happened there yesterday. We'll see what happens with the games today. And they might even still be going on. So I don't want to get into it. And there you go. So that'll be the MAC. We'll talk more about the MAC next week. And a lot's going to depend, too, on whether or not we do the show on a Tuesday or a Wednesday next week. But you've known all along what our teams in the MAC. What did we have? I think we even said what, Ohio and Western Michigan. Well, no, Ohio and Western Michigan this week. So we had Western Michigan. Yeah, it's hard to know because we don't have the results this week. But Western Michigan was our team. That was the team that we really gravitated towards early this season, and we're pulling for them. Okay, so that's college football, everybody. So let's round it out by going over our picks. All right. So let's see. I'm not gonna post them. So here we are. I'm just gonna run through them. I got my paperwork here. All right. So I'm gonna take Arkansas money line. This would be a single-digit money line. In the SEC. I might take Georgia as a top play this week. Borderline, but I might take him as a top play. I'll take Mississippi State as a single-digit money line. I might take Oregon as a top play. That's also debatable. Northwestern is definitely a double-digit play for me, as you know. Let's see. I'm going to take Michigan State as a money line, single-digit. I'm going to take Purdue as a double-digit money line. Why not? Let's go for it. I'm taking Notre Dame also, kind of hedging my bet if there'll be a top play game. Virginia will be a top play. So I'm going to go with Virginia as a top play this week. Okay. I'm going to go North Carolina as a single-digit money line. I'm taking Cincinnati as a single-digit. I'm taking Cincinnati as a top play. That's 6 against Arizona. I'm going to take West Virginia as a double-digit money line. I think I'm going to take Baylor as a single-digit money line. I think I'm going to do that. I'm thinking about that. So I'll probably do that. I'm taking BYU as a top play. I'm taking South Florida as a top play. I'm taking Memphis as a top play. I'm taking Air Force as a single-digit money line. New Mexico, I like. Maybe not a top play, but I do like New Mexico. I'm going to take Utah State as a single-digit money line. San Diego State also is going to be up there, top play territory. I'm taking Troy as a double-digit money line. I'm taking, Kennesaw State. I'll take them. And I like Missouri State too. Yeah, it's funny. Out of all these games, I must say, none of them, there wasn't one, I don't think there was, that really stuck out. Oh, I love that one. Virginia might be one of my top plays. I don't know if I could take Virginia as my top play overall. It's going to be tough. Who knows? I like Cincinnati too. So, the ones that I don't know right now that I can tell you that there's a distinct number one play, but those are all the ones I like the most. And I certainly hope I gave you enough information to digest and to decide for yourself how you want to go with in the college ranks. So now let's talk some NFL. Why don't we? And don't forget a couple more things I want to remind you about. Do I have all my stuff here? Oh, here it is. Okay. So, I'm going to do this really quick. I'm going to show you quickly how to join our YouTube membership. Of course, it's got that. Got to change my account. I got several YouTube accounts. Oh, this works. Okay. So here, it's really easy. So to join our YouTube membership, all right. All right. You see here? It's really easy. See the join button? That's all you got to do. Just I want to show you 3 things. First, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. That's the easiest thing. Because a lot of people just don't subscribe for whatever reason. But again, it's free. We don't ever email you, nothing. If you don't want us disturbing you at all, you don't have to pay for anything. And all you're doing is just you're helping us out. That's it. Is everything we're giving you for free, all this information. The least that you can do, subscribe. That's all. It's the least effect for you. Now you can also visit our community here. And we're going to do is click that. And you see, this is where all the information is. I'll announce something, but you'll have an opportunity to post as well. What you're going to do, see, this is me. This is Proline, but this is, I would be you. I would just come on here and type in something and say, hey, who do you like in the so-and-so game? Hey, what do you think? Hey, do you think so-and-so is going to play this week? Whatever, this goes to everybody. So this gives you opportunity to open up a dialogue within our community. And then if you want to join our YouTube membership, that's what you do. And here they are. For Mark's Executive Plays, $39.99. For Feist's Top Premier Picks, $49.99. And for the Top Cappers Bundle, meaning you get both Mark's picks and Feist picks and other picks from other handicappers, bonus videos, bonus perks. And all you got to do, like for instance, you see right there, these are the perks for this. All you got to do is more about perks. Click there. You read the perks and find out what they mean in each tier is what we call them. And there you go. So it's as simple as that. And we hope you will join. At the very least, subscribe. Okay, let's talk NFL. Here we go. Oh, we got to start with my team, huh? Nice. Okay, whatever. We'll start with the Jets. Let me get this college stuff out of the way. We're going longer than last week. So we've clipped the last 2 weeks. We're going for record time doing the show. So last week we were at 3 hours. This one's going over 3 hours. We got 19 watching. We get that number up. You can also hit the share in the videos. Anytime you can share these videos to your anybody you want. You click the link when you share it and you send it out on social media, and that helps us out as well. This is where we bring in more traffic. Okay. Thursday night, my Jets on a 2-game winning streak. Aaron Glenn is kicking ass in press conferences. I love it. You should if you get a chance, check out the Aaron Glenn press conference yesterday, because he buried one of the Jet beat reporters from ESPN because apparently he had gone off and proclaimed that Garrett Wilson was going to miss 3 to 5 weeks or something. And Aaron Glenn probably read that. Somebody pointed to him and said, well, how the fuck does he know if Garrett Wilson's going to be out 3? Who was he? Nobody told him anything, because that ship is pretty tight there in New York with the Jets now. They don't leak anything. And so that's what he did. He basically came out there in his press conference and was like, oh, well, we're not going to do the injury updates here in the beginning like I normally do, because, hey, why should we? If you want to know anything about our injury reports, talk to Rich. It was hilarious. He really ripped him. But that's the old Bill Parcells way. That's how Bill Parcells did it back in the old days. He's a disciple of Bill Parcells. He's the perfect fit for this franchise. That's why I know it. It's just going to take a little bit of time. And I'm really hoping, I've said this before, and I'm going to keep saying it, I might even do a video just so I can get it out more official. Maybe I'll do like a shorter one that's just about my feelings on this. But I don't think he's going to wait for a rookie. I think he'll draft someone. Don't get me wrong. I'm not sure he'll use that first round pick on him, but I think he's gonna. I think Tanner McKee. I'm really feeling it. I think the Jets will make a play for Tanner McKee from the Eagles and give him a shot to start next year, because next year's the year to do it. You got 1 year. I think that's what you do, because there's not many other. Now, you could bring in a Kyler Murray. I don't care who you bring in, but you got to bring in a veteran. You got to upgrade the spot and give someone a chance. Drafting a second rounder, something like that, third rounder, someone that has put a flyer on them. And then you go into the season with a veteran and a flyer rookie. And by the end of 2026, do you have your guy? If not, you've got all that draft capital that you can spend on a quarterback in 2027. Meanwhile, in 2026, you go everything else and you give that veteran quarterback some tools and see if you can work on with them. And again, I just hope it's Tanner McKee. Okay. So Jets, Patriots, and the Jets are 2-2 straight up, 3-1 against the spread in their last 4. They lost both games. They've lost only 2 games this year by more than 7, and you got a big spread. The Patriots have won 7 straight. They've covered 6 out of 7. Booty and Stevenson will miss the game again, but didn't hurt them against Tampa, and I don't suspect it'll hurt them here. They're going to win a lot of games because they're scheduled. I just hope the Jets, when they're ready, I don't know if next year will be that. I think if they do get themselves a veteran quarterback and they get and they can upgrade their talent free agent wise, which I believe they will, Next year might be the year, but in the next year or two, they better give the Jets a schedule like the Patriots had this year. That's all I know. I want the Patriots schedule in the next couple of years. This year we would have wasted it, but I want it in the next couple of years when we can actually use it to our advantage. Okay. Yeah. Honestly, I have no problem seeing why this line. I actually thought the line would have started off at around 13 or 14. I'm surprised it started at 10. I'm not surprised it's making its way up to 13 or 14, which is really where I thought it should be. So yeah. I think when you're a team like the Jets and you've won a couple, that's about it. You can't do more than that. So unless the Jets are going to do something freaky on Thursday night, shock everybody, I just don't think this is going to be close. I think this will be like a 30-6 game or something like that. I think this will be over, maybe even by halftime. All right. Yeah. What about the Commanders? Oof. 0-5, straight up ATS in the last 5, including the last 4 by a 154-65 margin. Detroit, as you know, was one of our top plays. They were our top play last week. We had them in the Wise Guy contest, and they beat up on the Commanders like we thought they would. We know the Dolphins are not the Lions, but they came up with a big win last week against the Bills. The last 5 this year for the Dolphins decided by more than one score. How crazy is that? 2-3 straight up. So in the 5 games the Dolphins have played recently, all 5 have been big blowout type games, more than one score. Dolphins have won 2 of them and they've lost 3 of them. What does that mean in this one? Not much, because it's only a 2-point spread. So I don't think you would have worried about that anyway. It's only 2. But I mean, look, you got one team that's feeling good about themselves, and you got another team, Washington, that's not feeling good about themselves, and a bunch of injuries. So I think if you're going to take a team, I guess take the Dolphins, right? All right. Tampa Bay Buffalo, 5.5. And Buffalo just has too many injuries right now. Tampa Bay has kind of been used to them. But Buffalo, it's starting to get to be a problem now. And I think we saw a little of it last week. It's just starting to really look. I'm also wondering, have we got to the point where Sean McDermott is done? Or is it possible that last week's game was a minor hiccup and Buffalo will just be just fine? We'll see. There's just a lot of injuries you need to keep an eye on with the Bills. So make sure you do that. Of course, the Bucs have been dealing with these injuries all season. Nothing's going to change this week. Nobody's coming back. Godwin's still out. Irving's still out. But remember this. Baker Mayfield, 8-8 straight up. 12-4 against this spread as a road dog with the Bucs. 2-1 this year. And the Bills are 0-3 against the spread as a home favorite. All right. So, yeah. So, there you go. I'm taking the Bucs. I'm taking that 6. I don't know about the money line. I feel a lot better, obviously, about the 6 and that the way that is there, the roll there. Both teams are 6-3, by the way. And I'm pretty much in the same boat, even though Tampa Bay's in a much better situation because of the division. Buffalo is New England in the division. Next week, Houston will be playing Thursday night football at Houston. Tampa Bay will be at the Rams next week. But after the Ram road game, the last 6 games that the Bucs are playing, 5 of them losing teams. One of them is a 500 team, Carolina. So Tampa Bay's schedule opens up very easy after these next few weeks. If they can just find a way to win one of these 2 games, they're going to be just fine. They got to avoid like a 4-game losing streak. I think, 4. They got to avoid that, because then that'll bring back maybe Atlanta into the picture, of Carolina. So we'll see, because Atlanta's playing a bunch of cupcakes. All right, Houston and Tennessee. And Houston's the play here, just like it was earlier this season. check this out. Only the second time this year that a Houston game point spread is higher than 3 points. How about that? So that means every game except one this year has been pick 'em 1, 2, or 3. The only time it was higher than 3, it was when Houston was a 7-point home favorite against Tennessee. And all they did was win 26-0. They are now 4-0 straight up and against the spread, the last 4 against Tennessee. The Titans, meanwhile, this is bad. 0-13 against the spread as AFC dogs of more than 3 when they take on a losing team. Houston's still a losing team. They're 4-5. And they're 0-2 in that role this year, including the Houston game. And Houston's got 2 really tough games coming up. So they need this one desperately because they're going to be playing Buffalo on Thursday night, as we mentioned. And then the very next week at Indianapolis. And after that, they're at Kansas City. So Houston really desperate for this game. And it's now down to 6.5. Good. I'm taking Houston. Next up, we've got the Packers, 6.5 against the Giants. What's happened to Green Bay? They've scored 20 points total in the last 2 games. They've been outscored 26-20. What the heck? But they're back into this bad roll. Road favorite. They're 7-14 in their last 21. Now they came off the cover against the Steelers, but they're still, that's their only cover of the year in that spot. They're 1-3. They're 1-1 straight up. 0-3 against the spread as a road favorite this year when they take on losing teams. And they're 1-11 against the spread in their last 12 as a road favorite of more than 3. 0-3 in the roll this year. All of that points to taking the Giants, believe it or not. And they get the backup bump. Jameson Winston gets the start. If this was Russell Wilson, I'd dismiss all of that and take the Packers. But with all of that, now I really like the Giants. I'm going to take the Giants. I'm taking the money line too. Why not? Something's going on with the Packers right now. I don't know what it is. It's not good. So this will be an upset play. Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, it's 5.5. Bengals coming off a bye after those 2 dreadful losses to the Jets and the Bears after they upset the Steelers. Crazy, huh? No Hendrickson again this week. So that's bad news for the Bengals. They are 11-1 against the spread as road dogs when they take on an opponent in a revenge situation. But they were 11-0 this year. They're 0-1 in that role this year. So keep that in mind. The dog in this series is 4-0 straight up in the last 4. Straight up, the dog. That's good for the Bengals. And head coach Zach Taylor has covered all 8 all-time off of back-to-back losses after they allow 35 or more. 8-0. Steelers, meanwhile, 1-0 straight up and against the spread as a home favorite this year versus a losing team. That was Cleveland. So the only time they've been a home favorite versus a losing team, it was Cleveland, and they won the game 23-9. It's also the only game this season Cleveland has won the yards battle. They're 1-8. I don't know. Cincinnati may not be a bad upset play, but I also kind of get the feeling that this is probably one of those roles that Pittsburgh will bounce back and do really well at. Chargers and the Jags. Chargers 3-point favorite. Yeah, Jags. I was actually surprised to see the Jags were still over 500 the way they're playing. They're 6-0-1 ATS after they allow 35 or more when they take on a non-divisional AFC opponent. For the Chargers, they're only 1-3 as a road favorite this year, but they're 8-1 in the stats. So they're, even with all the injuries, they still 7-2. That's hardball, man. Yeah, I don't like the way both teams, I don't like the way the Jags are going. Chargers are hanging on. They would be an elite team this year if they were healthy. But with all the injuries they have, they're hanging on and they're just winning and finding ways to win because they're well coached. I'll take the Chargers in this one. I don't like the way the Jags are going right now. Carolina getting 3.5 after the really tough loss to the New Orleans Saints. Not good. I think a lot of people trying to figure out what's going on here with Carolina this year, but they're still 5-5. Still got a shot. They're also 2-0 straight up and against the spread in their last 2 on the road. They beat the Jets and the Packers. So don't worry about road, at least for the last short while. Carolina's served pretty well. And don't forget, all the way back in week 3, Carolina 30, Atlanta 3. So, nothing. It was a shutout, 30-0. And they were a 5-point home dog, Carolina was at the time. Atlanta, meanwhile, 0-4 straight up and in the stats in the last 4 games. But they are 5-1 at home with divisional revenge in their last 6. Problem is, I just can't take Atlanta. Atlanta's one of those teams. They're confident. They just know how to lose. Now I can't take teams like that. So if I'm going to take the game, it's either I'm taking Carolina or I'm not touching the game. Bears and Vikings, and I think this is a good spot for Minnesota. It's time for the Bears to lose another game. They're 6-3. I think that's enough. But they got a tough schedule coming up. They got Minnesota this week. Then they play Pittsburgh. Then they play the Eagles and Packers on the road. Check this out. This is a bad spot for the Bears and decent spot for the Vikings. That's why I'm all over the Vikings. The Bears are 5-22 straight up, 8-18-1 against the spread in their last 27 divisional games. And if you want to say, yeah, but we got a new coach, we're having a great year. They're 0-2 straight up and against the spread this year in the division. And don't forget, Minnesota beat them week 1 as a 1-point road favorite. And Minnesota has beaten the Bears 8 out of 9. Also, the Bears are 5-18 against the spread as division dogs off of a win in a revenge situation. So I'm all over the Vikings in this one. And this is one of those games that J.J. McCarthy has got to step up. He has to show that he's capable. Because if you can't show you're capable against the Bears, you're not going to show it this year. Here's a big one. One of the best matchups of the season. Seattle and the Rams. Battle of 7-2 teams in the division. This is actually going to end up being the best preseason pick that I made. When I took the, what was it? I think it was the Rams to finish first and Seattle second. I think that's what it was. We're going to go over our preseason predictions at some point next couple of weeks on one of our shows, probably on our Friday show. Seattle, 7-1, straight up and against the spread in the last 7, including 8-0 in the stats. So they've been a dominant team lately. They're also 5-1 against the spread as a road dog under Coach Mike McDonald. 1-0 this year in that role. And they're 10-1 against the spread as dogs in the first back-to-back road games. The Rams, they have a few trends, though, to say, hey, wait a second, this ain't no one-side trend deal. We're going to make it real tough on you guys. They're 3-1 straight up, 3-0-1 against the spread, their last 4 versus Seattle. And head coach Sean McVay is 13-2 against the spread all time in the second of back-to-back divisional games. Pretty impressive. That's why he's Sean McVay. Keep an eye on a couple of injuries for Seattle. Jones, the linebacker, is a big part of that defense. He's been out of the last few weeks, but, bigger competition. They really need him. And Reed, their defensive tackle, is on IR. So a couple of injuries that you definitely want to keep an eye on with Seattle. monster game. This is a real tough one to call, though. Real tough one to call. Oh man, I don't know. I honestly, I'm probably not going to touch the game myself because I can. There's nothing that I can think of where I go, oh, I have to take this team, or I have a bad feeling about this team. I mean, both teams are playing great. It should just be a good game. You don't have to bet every game. It should be a good game to watch. 49ers, Arizona, and I like San Francisco. The line was 2, it's now 3, so that sucks. They've covered all 3 as a road favorite this year. They've covered 6 straight off a double-digit straight-up home loss. They beat Arizona week 3, but that was a 2-point home favorite. They did not cover. They won the game by 1. And Arizona is 2-1 straight up, 3-0 against the spread in their last 3 versus San Francisco. But remember last week when we jumped all over Seattle against Arizona, even though it was 7, and we were a little bit concerned with that. And I can understand why people were taking Arizona. But remember we talked about those injuries. Leading tackler Mac Wilson out, 2 starting cornerbacks out, and they got buried early. And I also didn't like Arizona coming off the big win with Jacoby Brissett. Because why? Because Jacoby Brissett is not going to come back and win back-to-back really good performances. Because if he's able to do that, then he'd be a starting quarterback. He's a backup for a reason. Now, look, maybe he can come back and have a good game this week and win. That's possible, but you're still dealing with the injuries on defense. You now have Marvin Harrison Jr. out, your top wide receiver. I think that's asking too much. So I'm going to take San Francisco in this one, even though the line just moved up to 3. That's okay. Arizona 0-6 against the spread at home versus winning division opponents, including 0-1 this season. So I'm taking the Niners minus the 3. Probably one of my better bets too. And I think we might see Brock Purdy this week. All right, Baltimore and Cleveland. It's now at 7.5. Baltimore beat Cleveland back in week 2, 41-17. It's a 13-point home favorite. Hold on, I got to close my window. It's freezing. Yeah, I don't want to wake up tomorrow. 3.5 hours of talking with a cold breeze in my face. Wake up with a sore throat. Okay. So Baltimore and Cleveland. And after beating up Cleveland in week 2, you would think that they should be able to do it again here, as they have come back, winning 3 straight up and against the spread to get to 4-5, winning those games by an 85-41 margin. But keep this in mind. I'm still not super sold that Baltimore is back. They're 1-2 in the stats in those games, and they're 2-7 in the stats this year. So I still need more proof that they're back. I don't know if I'm going to find that out this week against Cleveland, but hey, blowing them out would still be a good way to do it. But check this out. Cleveland has won 3 of 4 at home against Baltimore, including a 5-point win last year as a 7-point home dog, like they are this year. The Browns are also 1-1 straight up, 2-0 against the spread as a home dog this year, beating the Packers and losing to the Bengals by 1. So this has been a good roll for Cleveland this year. But there are 2 trends that really bury the Browns. 0-13 as division dogs against the spread versus losing teams. And they're 0-1 in that roll this year. And they're 2-18 against the spread off back-to-back straight-up ATS losses versus his division opponent, 0-1 this year. So I'm going to take Baltimore. I just get to what I saw last week. I get the feeling that we're going to see Shedeur Sanders soon. That's my call. I think we're at that point now. And then a blowout loss this week to the Ravens will definitely do that. Okay, now we get to the big games of the week. The Sunday night game between the 4 o'clock game. We'll start off with the Chiefs in Denver, and it's now up to 3.5. Yeah, it needs to stay there though. I mean, that can't get any further than that. That'd be getting out of hand. Of course, the Chiefs are coming off the loss of the Bills. Took the bye week, which is supposed to signal, hey, anytime the Chiefs are on a bye week with Andy Reid, you take Andy Reid of the Chiefs. They are 22-4 straight up teams coached by Andy Reid after a bye. 9-3 with the Chiefs, 13-1 with the Eagles. Denver, meanwhile, see, the reason why most people, including me, would be thinking of taking the Chiefs this week is really more to say about the Broncos. Because even though they've won 7 straight, they've only covered 4 of the 7, and they've had ugly wins. But you got to remember this, and this is important. They've won the stats in every of those games. They might have been ugly. They might have had to come back. They might have had to win crazy, but they've won the stats in all the games. And don't forget, they went on the road and they beat the Philadelphia Eagles. They also went on the road and beat the Houston Texans as dogs. Both dogs situations. So, I know it's the certain games that stick out, like beating Las Vegas by 3 at home. But they just do what they have to do to win, basically. They're playing down to their competition in a way. It's not the great way to win, but they win. That's why they're 8-2. They're also 2-1 straight up, 2-0-1 against the spread as dogs this year. The only loss was the Chargers. They've covered 5 straight versus winning teams with rest, and 5 straight at home after Thursday Night Football. They beat the Chiefs last year, week 17, 38-0. And I remember that game because I remember thinking, well, Carson Wentz is going to play, and he did. And I said, okay, this might be a good opportunity for Wentz to showcase himself. And, hey, maybe they can't sit everybody. And they just kind of buried the team, and they didn't care. They went to the playoffs and didn't care. But still, I wonder. It's the last time these two teams have played, same place, 38-0. I wonder. Denver, though, has covered 6 out of 7 against the Chiefs. So 2-5 straight up in that role. And don't forget the game last year. Remember that one in Kansas City? Denver had that game. They had the field goal blocked at the end. So J.K. Dobbins looks like he's going to be out. He could be on injury reserve. That's a big blow for their running game. And biggest one is, again, it looks like we're not going to see Patrick Surtain. So we'll see. But, he could be out again. And that would be a big blow, especially with the Chiefs being healthy as they've been at receiver. So I think like most people, I think the Chiefs are a good play, but I don't know. I'm going to think about this a little bit longer. I'm not going to put them on my wise guy contest. That's for sure. I'm not going against the Broncos, something like that. But I'm going to probably take another day or two to think about it. And when we do the show tomorrow with Mark and Jim and Andy, and hopefully this will be one of the games, and I'll get everybody else's opinions too. So I'm open to seeing what everybody else thinks. And then we get a huge Sunday night game between Detroit and Philly. Now, Detroit, we know, has some injuries they're dealing with, but good news is even though they're still dealing with some of those injuries, and some are along the offensive line, one of their key edge rushers, Marcus Davenport, is practicing again, as is their number 1/2 cornerback DJ Reed. So will they both be back this week? Possible. So keep an eye on that. And if you look at Detroit, as you kind of do most of the time when it comes to the spreads and the trends, they're usually very good at this. Well, they're 13-2 against the spread in NFC road games. 1-1 this year. 12-2 against the spread after they score 35 or more. 2-1 this year. And 19-2 against the spread off of a double-digit ATS win. 2-0 this year. So a lot of good there, as usual, for the Lions. They're 1-2 straight up. And against the spread as a road dog this year, though. So this has actually not been a good spot for them this season. Philadelphia, meanwhile, starting to come on. After starting the season 0-7 in the stats, they're 2-0 in the last two. But how about this? They're 0-9-1 against the spread before they play the Dallas Cowboys. I actually, usually you see before they play. Divisional matchups, I think, actually matter. Now, I don't think it'll matter in this one, though, because there's no Eagles looking past Detroit to take on Dallas, especially on Sunday Night Football. Anyway, this is a good one. I think I'm going to take the Lions in this one. And then Monday Night Football, which is actually, even though it's in Las Vegas, it's going to be a Dallas crowd, without a doubt. I mean, that place is going to be full of Dallas Cowboy fans. The Cowboys went Monday Night Football by Monday Night Football. Then they're going to play the Eagles, and then I think they go back-to-back Thursday Night Football. They're 8-1 against the spread off of a straight-up favored loss. 2-0 in that role this year, coming off the loss at home against Arizona. Las Vegas, 0-2 straight up. 1-1 ATS as a home dog on the season. And 4-0-2 against the spread when they take on an opponent off of Monday Night Football. I like the Cowboys in this one, though. I'll take the Cowboys minus the 3. They're a better team. And, they get Quinnen Williams and Logan Wilson. So, off the bye, I expect them to be highly motivated, try to see if they can make something of their season. So I think the Cowboys are a good play this week. Okay. And there you go. So if I had like a best plays, I think Tampa Bay is a decent money line play. They're a good play anyway. I think Houston's a good play. I think the Giants are a good money line play. I think the Chargers may not be a bad play. I think the Niners are a good play. I think the Vikings are a good play. Yeah, those are the best ones for this week. Okay, so that's going to wrap it up. Again, reminding everybody that tomorrow, 1 o'clock, Playbook ATS podcast. Mark is going to put together 3 or 4 games for us to talk about. If you want us to talk about other games, you got to let us know. Text it and text us a live chat. And then we'll do college football as well with Andy later in the show. And then we'll do it all again on Friday at 3 o'clock, I think, with Mark Lawrence. Unless, of course, Mark would like to revert to the game day show we did because we couldn't do the show last week. So on Friday. So we actually wound up doing the show on Saturday morning. And we'll have to see. I don't know if Mark wants to do that again. We'll talk to him. Maybe we'll make that decision tomorrow and talk about it on the show tomorrow. But either way, Jim, Mark, and I will wrap up the weekend, as always, with our show, either on Friday or Saturday. And we'll get some more coverage the more deeper we go into the week, especially injury reports. Anyway, thanks for tuning in to this 3-hour and 33-minute and 47-second broadcast. And it's a record. I appreciate anybody that's been here for the whole time. I keep this in mind, too. If you don't watch live, the on-demand shows, like right now when I'm done, I'm going to put the markers in. So you're going to know which conferences I talk about and when I talk about them. Same thing with the NFL. So this way, if you only want to hear about SEC talk, you can actually look at the markers and you'll know at this time I talked about the SEC. So same thing with all the conferences, college football, NFL. So I'm trying to make it as easy as possible for you guys to navigate through such a long show. Anyway, thanks for hanging in with me, either live or on demand. I'll see you tomorrow, and I'll see you next week here on Proline TV. Thanks for tuning in.